I'm Gregory Thomas, the Executive Director for the Bethune Center for Entrepreneurship, and I'm a lecturer in the Eisenberg School of Management. Next. We are here in Western Massachusetts at the beautiful University of Massachusetts campus in what we call the Pioneer Valley, a 3-county region, Franklin, Hampshire, and Hamden. Next slide, please. And the University of Massachusetts, some of our demographics in terms of the incoming class that came in for the class of 2024, 5,000 students, 30% Alana, which you may know as BIPOC now, just under 400 international students. And there are a significant amount of applications to get into this class, 40,000, so 5,000 out of 40. And you see the GPA averages, SAT averages, and ACT averages on the side. Next slide, please, Carly. Entrepreneurship at the University of Massachusetts and innovation happens everywhere. Sometimes we like to think of innovation happening in STEM and engineering, and we like to think of sometimes entrepreneurship in the business school. But here at the University of Massachusetts, innovation and entrepreneurship is across the campus. Next slide, please. In our science corridors here, as you see, our integrated learning building. Next slide, please. And even in fine arts, or what we call humanity and fine arts, we have an institute for arts. And in that institute, there's an entrepreneurship center within HFA that is bustling and experiencing teaching students how to become an entrepreneur within arts and to run studios and the likes. Next slide, please. We also have a well-rounded group of co-curricular programming that occurs, including the National Science Foundation's Innovation Core, where customer discovery is taught. In addition to that, many boot camps and events put on by the Bethune Center and other organizations across campus and in the Pioneer Valley. Next slide, please, Carly. And I would be remiss if I didn't talk about our #1 campus dining. Just kind of a fun slide for you at the University of Massachusetts whenever you're on campus and want to experience the best food and don't want to take the time to go down to see Jeff's favorite spot, Antonio's. We can experience the best dining in the Valley and across the globe in terms of universities. Our food is #1. Next slide, please. So as we dig right in and we think about innovation and entrepreneurship, this slide demonstrates for you a change that we've made. We've moved the Innovation Challenge to a spring event, and a spring event that has a preliminary round and then a final. In the preliminary round, the finalists are chosen. This is a higher stakes, elevated competition that we've had in the spring. And the things that happen in the fall now, which you are in the box, the second box from the left, the executive pitch. The things that happen in the fall are lower stakes events where students are getting practice and working through with, I'll call it, maybe it's less pressure, it's probably the same amount of pressure, but the money is different. But these students are coming in, we're getting them in the Bethune Net and getting them to our boot camps and teaching and training them how to pitch and how to structure their business so that they're successful. New to this, we had in the past the minute pitch. The executive pitch used to be the seed pitch, and we had a social entrepreneurship challenge, but it was different. So new this year are the 3 to the right, the tech challenge in partnership with our STEM colleagues across campus, the social entrepreneurship challenge, which tech challenge happens Wednesday this week. The social entrepreneurship happens Friday. And then last, coming in the fall, next year, we'll have a business plan competition. So our Innovation Entrepreneurship Academy in the fall, bringing students into the Bethune Net so that we can get them coaching and training that they need. And then a elevated competition happening in the spring that we call the Innovation Challenge, where the preliminary round selects the finalists that go on to compete after that. Next slide, please, Carly. And so, Carly, I appreciate you helping me through these slides, introducing to the team and to the webinar group, Carly Fricata, the program manager for the Bethune Center and the program director for the Collegiate Summer Venture Program. Next slide. And the marvelous Amy, our office manager, Amy McLean, is the office manager for Bethune and is also managing our social media. Next slide, please. We have this year 7 fellows. I think we have pictured here. One is missing, maybe, for our Bethune MBA fellows. This is a great partnership where we have for the on-campus full-time MBA programs, where the best and brightest with respect to entrepreneurship who are in our MBA program serve as fellows to the Bethune Center and coach and guide our ventures. Next slide, please. In addition to the MBA fellows, we have our student staff, our student assistants on the line with us today. We've got Alexa and Hannah, and thank you, Alexa and Hannah, for your service. And we also appreciate your peers. Next slide, please. And so then we have our judges. And I'm going to ask our judges, I'll call your name, if you could just unmute yourself, and Amy will spotlight you. If you could just give very briefly your affiliation with UMass and the Bethune Center, and that would be great. Start with Jeff.
Perfect. Welcome, everyone. My name is Jeff Glassman. I'm a 1990 graduate of the Eisenberg School, back then called SOM. I am very excited to be a part of today's event and also be a sponsor of the program. I own a company called Darn It, which is in New Bedford, Mass. And we are a warehouse and distribution and quality control company, employing about 80 people.
Excellent. Thank you, Jeff. And then next, Kyle Peterson.
Yeah, thanks, Greg. So my name is Kyle Peterson, graduated from UMass in 2004. I've been getting back there every chance I get since then, and being part of these types of events is just one way that I'm able to get back there and try and give back to the community. I'm one of the founding partners of Monomoy Advisors. We're a professional services firm that does things like interim CFO, IPO, so initial public offering support, technical accounting issues, and just overall sort of business support for startups and some more established companies as well.
Thank you, Kyle, and congratulations again on your startup. Amy.
Awesome. Welcome, everybody. I am so thrilled to be here. My name is Amy Posick. I am a 2006 graduate of the Eisenberg School of Management, and I'm just thrilled to be participating. I have such a passion for entrepreneurship, co-founded my own business just 3 years ago, the Women's Business League, where we encourage, inspire, and empower women to reach the highest version of themselves in their business.
Thank you, Amy, and thank you for joining us. And next we've got Terrell. Terrell, if you could give the people your info.
Hello, everybody. My name is Terrell Joyner. I actually got connected with Carly. Carly asked me to join one of the programs where they were working with entrepreneurs. And so my background myself, I'm an entrepreneur myself, co-founder of Unity Financial and Insurance Group. We do a lot of financial planning for individuals and business owners. We do a lot of group benefits with 401ks down to insurance. And I also launched my business coaching practice this year, which is very exciting, working with young entrepreneurs from every stage, from the idea stage to growth to exiting the industry.
Excellent. Thank you, Terrell. And last but not least, bringing us home, Austin.
Yep. Thanks, Austin Hebert. I work with EY. I was in accounting, specifically audit, for the last 7 years, and I've joined the innovation specific group within EY for the last 2 years. My day job is kind of evaluating business pitches like this within, just internally within EY, and products that we can build. So familiar with this. My direct manager actually sits in Boston. She plugged me into this opportunity. So excited to be here.
Excellent. Thank you, Austin. And Carly, I think the next slide is for our first picture. Is that right? Okay, and so our next pitcher will come in soon. We'll get him set up to pitch. But before that, I'd just like to give an extra special thanks, and usually we do this at the end, but I'll do it now, to Jeff and EY for their perennial sponsorship, perpetual sponsorship, better word. We appreciate you both. We wouldn't be able to do what we do and give away over $100,000 in equity-free funding throughout our programs without your support. And so thank you very much. And I guess now, Carly, let's get it on.
Fantastic. I think we have our first panelist in the room already. We're going to officially kick off at 1:20. Judges, I want to make sure, if you've seen in the chat, we put this judges scorecard and make sure that you're prepared to go as we kick off with our first pitch. And Mitchell, I just want to make sure that you're able to turn your video on before we start going. Okay.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
It says I need, I click it and it says you cannot start video because the host has stopped it.
Okay, so we will work on that behind the scenes to get you up and running soon.
Amy, as the host, if you give me co-host ability.
Yeah, I just gave him co-host access. You should
That's
be
what I
all set.
Perfect.
Awesome.
Okay, welcome Mitchell
There
for
he
our
is.
first pitcher. We have B here today, and we're going to kick off with our 5 judges. They have their scorecards. Mitchell, as a reminder, you have 5 minutes to pitch with 10 minutes of Q&A. There's going to be a timer up for you as well. And once you see me back on the screen, that means it's definitely time's up, in addition to the timer. But I'm going to go off video as soon as you start pitching, we will start timing, and we're going to turn it over to you to screen share as well. Do you have any final questions before we jump into your first pitch?
Oh,
Okay, congrats. Great. Thank you for being here today.
thank you. All right, can everybody see this? Yes? All right, cool. All right, my name is Mitchell and my company is Be Transparent. We're a reporting tool that helps mid-sized, socially driven companies manage environmental, social, and governance data. Our mission is to push for greater transparency and progress in these areas in organizations. So what is the issue? It stands for environmental, social, and governance. These are the different non-financial areas of impact in companies. This can include things such as carbon emissions, labor practices, and regulatory compliance. An increasingly large percentage of consumers, shareholders, and employees believe that companies should act on ESG issues and prefer to support or work for companies that share their same values. So what's the problem? Well, currently, a lot of companies say they're sustainable, but they're really not. Their reports can be misleading or inconsistent, and especially because there are 10 different major reporting frameworks. On top of that, a lot of time, money, and effort is put into creating these reports that very few people care to read. So what solutions exist currently? Well, there are consultants and there are independent research firms, and an increasingly developing area is sustainability management software. That's where we fall into. But first, I'd like to show you what an example of an independent research firm looks like, so you can get an idea of the difference. This is an independent company, and this is an example of their database, and here's an example of one of their 94-page reports. Now, this is great if you're an investor doing in-depth due diligence or a college student working on a project. But otherwise, you've probably never seen or heard of or used one of these products before, and that's fine. My point is they're not useful for day-to-day workflows or quick insights. That's where we come in. We're looking to win by creating the best user experience with a combination of simple user interface and high integration. Now, I'm going to pick on one of our competitors for a second. I recently saw a customer review that complained about the difficulty in relearning their software at the end of the year while scrambling to create an annual report for investors. I want to emphasize, this is not us. We aspire to be part of the routine discussions and workflows in an organization. This is where I believe the real change occurs. And that's what I really mean by high integration. So this is what the backend could look like for employees entering data. They could manage workflows, as you can see the tasks on the right. They could enter data directly or upload files such as Excel files, and they could manage their different reports, as you can see under the My Reports section. On the front end, people could view the progress in certain areas of an organization. resources, and articles in each area pertaining to environmental, social, and governance. The benefits of sharing information like this could lead to increased brand loyalty, employee retention, and access to investor capital. We went over the target market, but I'll say it again, it's mid-sized, socially driven companies. Our business model is pretty simple. We would just charge a set dollar amount per employee per month. And I think this is justifiable because I believe that as our clients or companies scale, the benefits that I mentioned would also scale. Our sales model would be early on high touch sales. This is basically just a salesperson talking directly with customers and helping a lot throughout the pre and post sales process. Currently, I'm the only team member. I'm a senior management major at Eisenberg. This is my last semester. I'm graduating 3 semesters early. My background is in sales and marketing, and I built my own website for my own freelance web design and advertising services. And that question mark on the right is because I'm looking for a technical partner. So if anybody knows any really good software engineers, actually, that would be interested in anything I said here today, please send me their contact. I'd love to just talk to them. So my ask is $1,200 to build a prototype that I can use to test my hypotheses on customers and can make continual improvements to the idea with. I estimate that a bare bones functioning prototype would take about 40 hours to build, and I could pay the person $30 an hour. With that said, I'd like to conclude with a quote. Sunlight is the best disinfectant today. So let's push for more organizations to be transparent. Thank you. Questions?
Fantastic. Thank you, Mitch. We're going to go straight into your 10-minute Q&A with the judges.
I'll start it off. Mitch, great job. Well done. And congrats on graduating 3 semesters early. If we had more time, I'd ask you how you did that. But question for you. You mentioned that you want to make this a little more simplistic for folks who are looking for this information. And is it something that's going to propel you above everyone else by making it more simplistic? And the follow-up to that is, how much contact with the company is required each time you go to work on one of these, or is the company doing most of the data gathering?
Yeah, so I guess I'll answer that last part first. So a lot of the data entry would be directly from the employees at the company. Currently, a lot of processes can be kind of split apart and fragmented, and it's just a bunch of like Excel sheets. So this really helps organize and aggregate all the data and information that they're already like reporting, a lot of these companies, but put it into like a single report. And it also helps manage those different frameworks I mentioned. There are like 10 different major frameworks, all with different information they're looking for in each category. So it really helps also like companies focus on what frameworks they want to use and what information they need to be filling in to follow those frameworks. What was the first part of that question?
I believe the first part was in regards to what makes, what will differentiate you from others, where you say the others are so complicated and they're 49 pages. How will yours truly be differentiated from the others? And why would, how would that make you stand out?
Yeah, so the thing that I believe really differentiates us from anything that exists currently is a lot of softwares that exist currently really focus on the investor relations. And I want to focus here for a second on the front-facing part of my idea. So part of my idea is to include like a validation system. As you can see, I don't know if I'm still sharing my screen, but as you can see here, like a system where employees can rate the actual overall scores that these companies get. And the scores would be created from an independent algorithm. So that's one thing that I think sets us apart, but also especially just that focus, not just on investors, but really on making these insights and this information very easily accessible to companies, customers and employees, so that they can use it for quick insights and daily discussions and team meetings or planning processes. So I think that focus on customers and employees is really where we differentiate. And I think that's a really big benefit to companies because in the benefits that I mentioned, like customers are not reading these 94-page reports in these reporting, from these independent reporting firms. Like I mentioned, like none of you probably have, unless you're an investor, taken the time to go look at one of these long reports. By creating like a simple section on companies' websites where consumers and employees can get quick insights and resources, they're more likely to actually look at this information, and you're more likely to have consumers align with your brand and increase the brand loyalty. And you're more likely to have higher employee retention as employees feel more connected to the missions of your company.
Thank you very much.
Just so for clarifying purposes, when you're looking at your competition, are you seeing yourself as a competitor for the existing organizations that are focused on investors, or are you thinking that you're entering a niche space in comparison, or are you doing both?
I mean, because part of the backend data entry is helping these companies still create the different reports and follow the different reporting frameworks that exist. It's definitely something that investors could use to look at and get quick insights. I think they would be able to get very more in-depth due diligence for investors looking at those independent research firms, and they might do that anyways. But I definitely still think this is a valuable resource for investors. But I think what really, like I said, what sets us apart is yeah, I think we're going into a unique niche that I don't see anyone in this space filling, which is really focusing on that front-facing side for consumers and employees, and making that this information like transparent and accessible for them.
And as a quick follow-up to that, how often are you expecting the employees to fill out? I'm assuming it's the quizzes and surveys that they would be going through. How often are you looking at that being completed by the employees to have the relevant information? Are you looking at something like a quarterly basis, annual, or how does that measured?
Yeah, so I kind of mentioned that I hope that this isn't just something companies use and scramble to relearn the software once a year to create an annual report. I was thinking that this could be something companies collect data on quarterly and try to more routinely update that front-facing section of their websites. So that way information is up to date and people can feel like the company is really trying to make progress in these areas, and it's a part of everyday workflow, and it's not just something they're reporting to make their investors happy. It's a tool they're actually, like, companies and their employees are actually using to gain insights and get a sense of direction on how to make positive changes in their company.
So a couple of questions for me. I guess, first of all, when you're thinking about, sort of mid-sized company and all the different employees there, who do you think is actually the person you're trying to sell this to? Like, which area of the organization is the buyer for this type of software?
Yeah, so a lot of companies today are hiring roles for chief impact officers. So for larger companies that have the budget for that type of position, I would probably talk to them. If it's really a smaller, like 100 person to 150 person organization, it might be talking directly with the CEO or COO. It just depends, like, who they have in position managing their sustainability reports, if they're doing them at all. So it depends what positions they have in their organization.
Okay. And one other question for me, just the sources of information that you need to put into the software. How is all that data going to be input? Is it somebody going to have to log in and enter it manually or upload it? Or you think it's going to integrate to some of the company's other types of software they may already have, like HR software and other things like that?
Yeah, so definitely long term, I hope to be able to build out API systems where we can automatically have information from other tools like HR management softwares and other softwares that companies use to automatically send data over. But short term, like, employees should be able to enter data manually. And like I said, in smaller organizations, some of these companies are just reporting data just on like Excel sheets. And I also like envision employees being able to just upload files as well. So a combination long term of integrating current systems and also manually entering data.
Excellent, thank you.
Do you find yourself going after any particular target industry, or are you trying to focus this on a broader spectrum?
Yeah, so a lot of the softwares that exist currently will focus on a specific niche, like the energy sector, or I've seen like construction, real estate. But because what we're doing is different in the sense that I mentioned, we're not necessarily trying to please investors. We're trying to focus more on the employee and customer side. And I think we're going into a unique niche. I'm really just trying to focus on mid-sized companies who maybe don't have the budget to create an entire team or hire full-time roles to like do these reports, manage these reports, and manage these sections of their websites. So that's why I'm targeting mid-sized companies. The reason I'm not targeting a specific niche besides socially driven companies is really because, like I mentioned, I think we're going into a niche of our own in targeting, focusing on employees and customers rather than investors.
Just a couple of questions for you, Mitchell. I think this was good, and ESG is definitely, there's a lot of market there. I guess for your MVP build out, are there specific metrics? I see a couple here, but didn't know if you could dive into those a little bit more if you've already thought through some of the key metrics you'd want in your initial design.
Yeah, so I think for the very bare bones version of our MVP or prototype, the most important part would probably be to work on the back end. And that's allowing companies to first manually enter this data or upload files like Excel sheets, and then be able to comply with whatever reporting framework they wish to comply with, and then having it automatically aggregate data into a single form report. I think that would be like the very bare bones key functions of the MVP.
Got it. And I think another piece that you had said, like another service of complexity, that's definitely an area this could help with. But in terms of data validation, how do you see this product potentially helping from a validation standpoint?
Yes, I was hoping you'd get to that. So from a data validation standpoint, you can see under the score here, it says score derived from an independent algorithm, and you could click to learn more. That would bring you, I envision that bringing you to right to our website and showing you how, showing customers and employees in a transparent way how these scores are derived. And it could show different frameworks, and it could show the different mix of data sources that we collect from. That could be direct or voluntary company reports. That could be employee surveys, customer surveys, and PR or news articles. And then
Mitchell,
another
thank
additional
you. We're
step
just out of time.
is this voting system where you can rate the accuracy for employees. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Great job on your first pitch of the day. We really appreciate you being here.
Thank you.
Thank you. Judges, you now have 5 minutes to fill in your scorecard. We're going to bring up our next startup at 1:40. We're going to play a little bit of music, but Mitchell, you are all done for the day. Thank you so much for being here. We appreciate you.
Thank you so much. Have a good day.
You too. Okay, we are all set. Ethan, you have 5 minutes to pitch with 10 minutes of Q&A. You may have already heard this, but there will be a timer. As soon as that timer goes off, I may pop on the screen. If you see me, that means it's time to either go into Q&A or your Q&A is just wrapped. We're going to ask you to gracefully stop pitching at that time. I'm going to turn it over to you. As soon as you start pitching, we will start timing. Good luck. Thanks for being here.
All right, thanks so much. Hello, everybody. My name is Ethan. I'm going to be pitching for Sequestrar. We're working to transform brewer spent grain into biochar for carbon capture, soil amendment, and renewable energy to use on site. Quick overview of our team from left to right. We have Lincoln, Ethan, that's me, Connor, Megan, Jack, Joe. We've also had a significant amount of support from several professors and local entrepreneurs. As we're all pretty familiar with beer, but maybe we haven't realized its significant environmental impact. Producing just 1 6-pack of beer is the equivalent of charging your phone 158 times, or burning 1.4 pounds of coal. In addition to this massive carbon footprint, there's a massive amount of waste produced in the form of brewer spent grains. Spent grain is the physical husk of barley that's left after it's used to brew beer. Think of it like wet tea leaves after you make tea. Generally, the grains are given away freely to farmers as animal feed, but in urban areas, grains are often sent to a landfill or to compost. Energy contents are used, carbon dioxide is rapidly re-emitted into the atmosphere, and the carbon dioxide cycle is completed. Over here on the left, we have the carbon cycle as we all know it. And over on the right, we have what's called the biochar cycle, which is what we're going to be using. Shows how pyrolysis disrupts the carbon cycle by removing CO2 and storing it in the ground as what's called biochar. Again, into that. There's also, you can see on the bottom here, a significant amount of energy produced. This is all renewable clean energy. Here's what biochar looks like. It's a carbon sink, meaning it takes carbon dioxide from the atmosphere, stores it in the ground. While it's in the ground, it has several benefits. Helps retain nutrients, helps retain water, and then of course it has its financial benefits. $1,800 a ton, receive some carbon credits, and of course the government will give you some tax credits. Quick overview of the system we're designing. The dried spent grain here enters at the top and enters to a heated chamber. From there, the screw will pass it along, turning the spent grain into biochar and pyrolysis gases. Biochar will exit at the bottom there, and pyrolysis vapors exit at the top. Those can be used to dry fresh brewer spent grains, as well as supplement natural gas in the brewery. Same as this, just nice CAD model that Lincoln created. A cross-sectional view. So what are the benefits for breweries? Why would they be interested in it? Helps process is difficult waste stream to brewer spent grains, reducing the environmental impact of these grains going into landfills and whatnot. Biochar acts as a carbon sink, so it's good for the company if they're trying to like have a sustainable business model and do good things for the environment. It's pretty common for breweries. And of course, it's an additional income source. They can sell the char, supplement energy use on site, and they get the tax credits. Revenue for us, our main source of revenue is going to be the sale and installation of these pyrolysis systems. Target customers, urban breweries, because like I said before, they don't have access to farmland. And oftentimes they don't even have a compost system, so the grains will just end up in the landfill. It's expensive for them, bad for the environment. We also hope to partner with brewery supply companies. They have an established reputation, strong knowledge of the market. But here's the two most similar products in the market. There's our competition right here. Like ours, they're screw feed pyrolysis systems, but good for us. They're located in Europe. Neither one is actually specifically designed for brewer spent grains. One is designed for trash, and one's kind of just organic waste as a whole. They also operate at much larger scales and are far more expensive than what we're intending. Quick estimated costs of our business once it's operational. We got full-time employees. We're going to contract out some of the metal work, welding, and other things. We got to get the materials. There's going to be a certain cost for installation. You got to have space to do it and a little bit of room for profit. All in all, we're hoping to have our system cost about $37,000. If we receive any financial support, this would be used to building a prototype in the spring. The table on the right shows the cost of building a very high-end prototype. It's using like very high-end insulation, high-end metals, mechanical components, all that. It'd be $5,700. We could build something for much cheaper, but this is a very ideal case right here. We love that. An important thing to note is, although we're focused on brewer spent grains right now, there's a ton of feedstocks out there: agricultural residues, trash, construction waste. We hope to expand a lot. In the grand scheme of the world, we have a waste crisis filling landfills, and we also have a food crisis with infertile land and topsoil eroding. Biochar kind of works with both of them, taking organic waste out of the landfills, turning into biochar to support our food crisis. Thank you so much. Any questions you got, let me know.
Thank you, Ethan. We'll jump right into that 10-minute Q&A with our judges.
Thanks, Ethan. I thought that was a very good presentation. Just quick question. So you're trying to sell the equipment to the urban breweries as the primary target, or the brewery supply stores. I guess, how big is this equipment, and how much footage is it going to take up in an urban brewery location?
Yes, that's a great question. We're still working on the exact sizing and all that, because there's a lot of like timing involved. I would say a reasonable estimate, like 8 feet by 3 feet, something like that, could fit in like you wouldn't need any crazy equipment to transport or install it, or a crazy amount of space.
Okay, and how long does it take to run? And is it like, is it like one run per batch of beer? Though I don't know exactly how you measure beer, but is it you put it directly in after you brew each round, and then it comes with the out product, or how exactly does that work?
Yep. So what we'd have a giant store. So right now they already have a giant storage container for their spent grain. They have giant silos outside. You've probably seen them. The farmer comes and empties out those silos. It'd be a similar idea where, like you said, they brew in batches, right? You'll have like 2 weeks on, 1 week off type of thing. They brew a bunch of batches of beer. So you have this huge pile of spent grain. What we basically have is during that time, you fill up the silo like usual. We'd be hooked into the silo with a continuous feed mechanism going. So you can just keep making biochar out of it. The biochar is like 1/10 the weight and like about a quarter the volume or something like that. So it's basically you just reduce it all and you put it in another storage container on the other side, and you can just have this going all the time, nonstop.
Ethan, are there incentives out there now? You mentioned tax credits and you mentioned other things. Are there incentives for breweries to put this in? And, ultimately, if there are incentives, that would pay for your equipment. So they wouldn't even have to pay for it themselves. What exists now?
Oh yeah. Yeah. So that would be on the brewery to have to do that. There are grants. I've actually found grants that like apply, it's like equipment grants for companies like, oh, if you want to do something green, we've seen companies get grants for solar panels or something, for example, or like some sort of heat recovery system. Same sort of idea with this. They could probably apply and get the government to pay for it.
Does it exist now? Are there incentives and tax credits now?
Yeah, I can't name the exact grant off the top of my head, but I did find several that applied to my machine now.
And why isn't this done in the US now? If you're saying it's being done overseas, why isn't anyone doing it now?
So I think I found a couple biochar companies, but they don't use continuous feed systems. So it seems kind of, I don't know, I'm not totally sure why, but you kind of do the same thing, but in batches. And it's sort of like a rudimentary system where you almost light a fire and you cover it and it sort of like burns itself out. And you end up with charcoal in a similar way. And they sell biochar. And you can buy biochar at like your local garden store. It is made. There's a market for biochar. The continuous feed systems, I think it's kind of just a new thing. I think it's like even these companies I found in Europe just popped up. The oldest one, the second one I showed you guys, is only like 3 years old. So I think it's just really new. I think people are going to start hopping on it, and I'd like to be one of those people.
Thank you.
Awesome job, Ethan. I just had a quick question. I was wondering, have you calculated what your margin would be on each system?
Yep. So that here, I can actually go back up to that. Let's see. This was including a profit of 40% on this guy. So excellent.
And then just real quickly, what is the maintenance going to look like on the system? And is that going to be an added on, or is that going to be included?
So maintenance, we'd hope to have it last at least 10 years with like minimal maintenance besides cleaning. I did include that when I was doing, I did another Excel sheet that I didn't want to drag you guys through because it had way too many numbers in it. But I did include like an additional, it was like 5 hours per every 40 hours that the machine has to run, basically. And you could basically just imagine you have to pay someone like $25 an hour for that. There'd just be a little bit of additional man hours. We basically have the whole screw come out, and you don't want tars or anything building up, so we'd give it a quick clean and keep it going. And
then what about training the employees of the breweries in terms of how they can best use the system?
Yep. Like a lot of these major pieces of equipment, actually, like you'll see if you ever like try to order something on Alibaba or something, they'll say like, we'll have staff come, and when we install it, we'll make sure plenty of people have training. And once basically needed enough people in the company have training that they never need to come back to again. Like the training gets passed down like any sort of machine in industry.
Is there any type of consumable model from this where people will need to buy parts or disposable items to be used in the equipment over time, or is it the equipment is sold and it's a one-time transaction?
Yep. So all our components are totally replaceable. I'm not sure which will go first. It's kind of you kind of get an idea of what mechanical components you need in there. You got like temperature sensors. You're gonna have high heat gaskets. You're gonna have high heat bearings. If something were to fail, they wouldn't need to buy the whole thing. Obviously, you could buy just a high heat bearing, and it'd be a $100 fix. And of course, we'd work out a warranty for however many years if it was to fail early or whatever. And then after that warranty period, yeah, they could buy it. But none of the components themselves that would fail are particularly expensive. It's just a lot of different little things that come together.
Have you looked at the time frame of how long it takes to go through the full process to create the biochar? And then a second part of that question, when you look at working with breweries who are going to have now a different product that they need to unload, is that going to be a responsibility of the brewery to find a buyer for that? Is that a service that you and your company will ultimately provide to the breweries?
Yep. So my thoughts on that are we would essentially link them So sort of like right now, they already have deals with farmers. They already have this massive amount of spent grain they need to get rid of, heavy, wet, soggy, difficult to transport. We're basically just hoping they'll still have something to get rid of, but instead of these grains that don't get them anything, they'll have this biochar, which is like they get money for. I'd imagine, I mean, if a brewery was interested, they could individually sell little baggies, but I'd imagine they'd want to wholesale it off to a company that already sells biochar. A lot of landscaping companies, you'll see they have either soil infused with biochar or they'll have biochar sold individually. So any sort of landscaping company might be interested in buying this. We would help them with that. I think it would come down. We don't want to be responsible for that. That would still be, the final product would still be their responsibility.
Ethan, just a couple of questions for you. One, with regards to the technology that's been developed in France, do you know what the adoption rate is? Are breweries adopting this technology right now outside of the US?
No breweries. So the issue is you need to dry the grain before you can pyrolyze it. So theirs has a minimum, I looked at their system, I think it was a minimum moisture content of like 25%, which is pretty low. Brewers Spent Grains comes out with moisture content of around 75%. So our system is using the pyrolysis gases off this. You still have very hot gases coming off of this. You have combustible gases coming off of this. It will basically have this hooked in to a dryer, because they have dryers that can use pretty much anything as a heat source. And you'll pre-dry the grain and then it'll come into our system. I don't think a brewer would even think to look at their system and be like, oh, like 25%, like that's such a, what I would have paid. We're just like straight out the gate, like give me your regular old spent grains, throw them in there. It'll do it all. Like it'll dry it for you. It'll put it right through the system, and then you don't got to do nothing.
Got it. And then just a little background on the team here. What's your guys' background, and why do you think you're the right people to build this?
Yeah, so we're all senior mechanical engineers except for Megan right here. She's a graduate mechanical engineer. She's actually doing a focus on entrepreneurial engineering, so she's actually going to be a great resource for us to have. We're all doing it as part of a senior capstone. We have support from several professors who are basically structuring the whole project for us. And then we have all the professors we've ever had for all our heat transfer, thermodynamic problems that we're running into. Also, Megan introduced me to a local biochar entrepreneur, Bob Klinger, and he's just an awesome resource for the entrepreneurial side of things. He's got a ton of experience starting a biochar company. He knows like a lot of the issues we're running into, and can help us through it. And then one more guy, my neighbor, he's restaurant business, but he's also an entrepreneur. He started his own restaurant, started his own kitchen business after his restaurant. So he's also a great resource to have, because he knows a lot of people in breweries, and he's talking to them about this too. And you can talk to them like friends and not have to approach them in such a businessy way, which is good if you're just trying to get like what do you really think of this? Like, would you actually be interested in this kind of thing? I think we have really good resources, great timing, and that's going to help us a lot.
To piggyback on Austin's question on the resources that you have, and again, on top of that, gentleman you were just speaking to, who would be the main resource when it comes to the sales component of the practice?
That's a resource that we're going to have to get once we are ready to start making sales. I think Megan's going to be taking some more classes in the spring as part of her entrepreneurial track, master's in engineering management. Sorry, and I think we'll just be networking within UMass to find someone who's interested in sales and who could help us. I also think the other guys help us, Bruce. He's had a lot of experience with sales because he sells all his really expensive kitchen supplies on the internet and does quite well. So I think he has a good understanding of how to find customers, and he can help us through that. That's definitely one of our next
Ethan,
steps.
thank you so much.
Okay, we're up. Thank you. Thank you guys so much.
Thank you for being here today, judges. We are going to give you a couple of minutes to fill in our scorecards, and then we'll move on to our next team. Okay, I now have all of the judges' scorecards. Team Microblaster, as soon as you start pitching, we will start timing. As a reminder, you have 5 minutes to pitch with 10 minutes Q&A with the judges. Good luck. Take it away.
Good afternoon, everybody. I'm Sarah.
And I'm Phoebe.
And today we are pitching for our venture, Microblaster. We are a team of 4 undergraduate women developing an antimicrobial innovation to prevent infection on intravenous or IV catheters. When you're admitted to the hospital, you would never expect to develop an infection that threatens your life, but that's the reality for about 2 million Americans annually. In fact, it is entirely likely that you or someone you love has contracted a hospital-acquired infection. Speaking from personal experience, both our teammate Haley and I have lost grandparents to hospital-acquired infections that could not be treated with antibiotics. I want to emphasize, however, that it does not take old age or pre-existing condition to die from hospital-acquired infections. To refresh your memory, here, you can visualize the insertion of an IV catheter through the tissue into the vein. Common placement sites for peripheral IV catheters, such as the one shown here, are the inner forearm and the hand. Common placement sites for more invasive central line catheters are the neck, clavicle region, or even the leg. So of course, the natural question is, why are these infections so prevalent? And the answer lies in the number of catheters placed and in the way infection is treated. Every single patient who is admitted to the hospital receives an IV catheter in case of emergency to administer blood, drugs, or fluids with convenience. They typically remain implanted for several days. Bacteria congregate around the implantation site, leading to potentially lethal infections. The second part of this problem is in the current solution. When infection grows severe, we treat it with antibiotics. However, germs grow resistant to treatment way faster than we can invent new antibiotics, and we are rapidly running out of treatment options. This problem behaves like a cycle and is quickly escalating. On average, hospital-acquired infections cause their victims 2 weeks of additional stay in the hospital. Beyond the 30,000 lives lost annually in the United States to catheter-borne infection, they cost hospitals $45 billion. Moreover, hospitals are graded based on their infection rates and receive insurance penalties if they are among the 25% worst in terms of spreading infections. Hospitals grapple with the problem of catheter-borne infection every day. They employ teams of infection prevention experts, closely track their patients, and do their best to maintain a sterile environment. However, they're simply not equipped with the proper tools to manage this growing problem. The Microblaster catheter actively prevents infection at the insertion site with a technology that prevents bacteria from making and maintaining contact on the catheter surface. Our primary competitors are antibiotic-releasing catheter companies such as Teleflex Arrow, as well as uncoated catheter manufacturers. These catheters offer the patient only transient, if any, protection against infection and only perpetuate the problem of antibiotic resistance. We have an advantage over antibiotic-coated catheters as Microblaster catheters do not perpetuate antibiotic resistance, utilize green chemistry, and are comparable in price to our competitors.
Currently, our teammate Simran and I are conducting bench research to develop and test our coating. Our next major step will be adhering the coating to the IV catheter. The funding from this competition would allow us to turn our technology into a prototype. From there, we will have a working prototype to enter the animal trial phase. Once the FDA approves our technology to go to market, our current plan is to license our technology to major catheter manufacturers, which will enable us to take advantage of the economy of scale offered by established firms. Following this strategy, we would generate revenue by collecting a royalty from the manufacturer as part of our licensing contract. Hospitals place approximately 200 million IVs annually in the United States. It's our vision that we can significantly reduce catheter-borne infection and save thousands of lives by using Microblaster IVs to treat the most susceptible, if not all, patients. Further, IVs are not the only implantable medical devices that can cause infection. Devices like pacemakers, artificial joints, and ventilators are also in need of infection prevention methods like the Microblaster coating. We have conducted extensive customer discovery research through the ICOR program, a National Science Foundation funded organization to confirm the product market fit of Microblaster catheters. Additionally, our team won the Grinspoon Concept Award, were semifinalists in the Draper competition for collegiate women entrepreneurs, and were finalists in last year's Innovation Challenge. Beyond our competitive qualifications, we are under the mentorship of 4 professors across 4 departments at UMass, including polymer science, microbiology, analytical chemistry, and OIM, who all endorse our technology's potential. Hospital-acquired infections are a dire problem, and we have the solution. With your help, we can bring this product to market and start saving lives. Together, we will change healthcare forever. Thank you so much for your time.
Fantastic. We'll go straight into our 10-minute Q&A. Thank you, team.
Maybe just a quick question on what is your regulatory pathway to get this approved, and what types of clinical trials or other approvals are you going to get this past the FDA?
Great question. So Currently, we're at the development stage where we are manufacturing, or I should say that we're trying to develop a prototype. This prototype is not entirely novel because it's just a variation of the catheter, which is an approved medical device. So the standards for this device are different from something like a drug trial, which goes in stages. Once the animal trial phase is passed with this catheter, we would undergo a brief clinical trial in humans, and then that would be ready for FDA approval. And then once approved by the FDA, we could begin marketing to medical device manufacturers. With the beauty of clinical trials with medical devices is that that's kind of a jump start into hospital entry. Once a doctor has said, you know, this medical device works in patients, this attracts attention from the hospital before even necessarily like a medical device company picks it up.
Awesome, great pitch, ladies. I did have a question on kind of pricing. So when you're looking at that, what are you expecting for cost with going through the prototype stage? And then you mentioned that it's comparable to your competitors price-wise. Have you looked at what the overall cost would be compared to what is currently on the market?
So when we say that our price is comparable to that of our competitors, we know that like the coatings ingredients are really inexpensive, and the hospital's costs are stuff like extended patient care, these massive insurance penalties, and lawsuits. And this would definitely offset the costs of major infection. I don't know if we mentioned this in the pitch, but once a patient is found to have acquired an infection in the hospital, all like subsequent costs of their stay are then not applicable to their insurance, but is rather the hospital's responsibility to cover. So this is what kind of contributes to that $45 billion annual costs. So we're looking to offset that cost. The initial costs of prototyping are high, which is why this is like that's the first priority in terms of funding to save up and cover.
Sorry, just to continue on that, have you dove into what you would need to raise funds wise on the prototype side to even get that started?
So I can take this one. We have consulted with a medical device expert, and the estimation for the prototype phase for a product like ours is about $50,000 to $60,000.
Now, I'm assuming that $50,000 to $60,000 would be great to get you to a prototype, but through all of the trials, do you know how much money you would need to raise to get to that FDA point? I'm assuming it's hundreds of thousands of dollars at that point. Is that correct? And if not, a lot more than that.
That's absolutely correct. The great part about applying just the technology to the existing medical device is that animal trials are a lot less expensive, especially depending on the country that they're conducted in, than a human trial for something like a pharmaceutical. Also, just like a drug trial, I know that we know from like the COVID vaccine are conducted in phases, and this is a little bit more direct than that. So even though it is hundreds of thousands of dollars, it's much more streamlined and definitely doesn't cost the tens of millions of dollars as something as like a major drug trial.
So what is your time frame now, or on your timeline? Because I do remember you from last year. And
Yes, I remember you too.
What's the timeline now? You know, you're a year later. You're at a certain point in time. What are you seeing going forward?
So I would say, Phoebe, welcome to jump in. I would say that our major goal is that by the end of the spring, we have a prototype put together. By that time, we would start looking into animal trials. I know that, and even in the UMass ecosystem, there are professors on campus who run animal labs, and even something like a mouse model would be an initial animal trial for us. Obviously, we'd like to move on to a larger mammal, something like pigs. Ideally, just a larger animal, more representative of a human. And then this would probably be like by the time that trial is completed, probably 3 years down the line. And then we'd like to begin human trials within the next 5 years.
And how, last question, sorry, how would you be able to, how would you be able to tell whether your coding worked for, how are you going to process that or administer something to an animal to show that it actually worked? You know, there just may not be an infection. Are you going to put something on there to infect the animal? I'm just curious how that works, how you'll know if it works.
So I can take this question from a more broad perspective. Right now in my lab, for example, I am doing tissue culture on the component parts of the catheter. So initially what we want to test is to make sure that the ingredients that are supposedly non-toxic are actually non-toxic to the cell. So we would want to confirm that these ingredients aren't cytotoxic to cells that need to exist in order for the mammal to live. And then from there, we would be able to inject different strains of infection and then test the catheter's component pieces on those different strains. And we would pick those strains from the most common pathogens found in catheters that are infected in hospitals.
Thank you.
So from a hospital or a physician perspective, is this going to be billed with the coding be the same as a regular catheter, and you're just offering enhanced benefits over the other catheters in the market, or is this something else that would have to happen through an insurance process?
So I'm happy to take this as well. This is going to be a coding for a catheter. And one of the reasons that we decided to do things that way was, as Sarah mentioned, because it does make the approval process more streamlined and simple. But additionally, having the coding be our product allows us to expand the applications to all sorts of medical devices. There's potential in the food industry. Antimicrobial coatings are really, really needed developments in so many different fields. So it is just a coding, and we believe that that would kind of help our like applicability of this company.
So maybe help me with that then. Is your customer the medical device manufacturers that are currently making catheters and you're selling them the coding to be applied to their device? Or is your customer the physicians at hospitals where you're selling a coded catheter to?
I can take this one. So it's kind of, it's an interesting relationship in medical device marketing between the physician and the company. So when you run a clinical trial through a hospital, you want to attract the physician's attention in a way that would have them be marketing it to something like their, even like the board of the hospital is something that would approve a new medical device for use in their hospital. But the actual customer, we do not plan on having like a catheter manufacturing company, rather just a company based on this coding. So we are looking to license the recipe for this coding to medical device manufacturers for them to apply to their devices, which is again part of the versatility of this coding.
Got it. One question for you is, so I think that the funding from this presentation here wouldn't necessarily cover the full amount of the prototype. Have you thought about that at all? Just thinking of where the rest of the funding would do to get you to that final stage for the prototype?
Yeah, so we absolutely, as I kind of mentioned in our credibility, we have been participating in funding competitions for about 2 years now. There are so many different competitions offered by the Berthium Center. There's 2 others even happening just this week. So we are just making sure to insert ourselves into any competition we can introduce our product to. So we definitely understand that one competition probably is not going to cover everything, but we kind of are expanding our interests as far as we can to try to apply to any competition in the area.
To piggyback on that question, could you tell us how far along you are with generating those funds and how close you would be to getting this prototype, especially with knowing that this competition can add to that funding source?
Again, TV, welcome to jump in on how much we've generated so far. If you're participating in competitions for the last, like really intensely for the last year, we've generated about $8,000 of funding. Beyond the funding generated, we're so lucky to have the mentorship of many professionals in the field who have taught us how to use that to our advantage and are looking to generate just even this additional funding would go such a long way in helping us generate our prototype. Thank you so much for your questions today.
Thank you, Team Microblaster. Great work. Thank you for being here today.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Okay, judges, you have 5 minutes to fill in your scorecard. I'm going to pull up the deck, play a little music in between. Once we have all of our scorecards, we'll get going with our next pitch. Perfect. It's working on your end?
Yes. Can you guys see that?
Okay. Yes, as soon as you start pitching, we'll start timing. You have 5 minutes as a reminder with 10 minutes of Q&A.
All right. Hi, my name is Summer, and throughout my life, I found myself having to choose between people and events based on different parts of my identity. Even in college, I fit into 2 different types of groups, one that understands my bisexual identity and one that accepts my Islamic background, but there's never one that combines both. So, how could my contradictions be seen as complementing each other? How do I balance both parts of my identity? Are there other people who feel the same because I feel that I'm alone in this? Hi, my name is Faiza, and we are more yin than yang. And more yin than yang, we believe that the contrasting parts of our identity can peacefully coexist to define us. We're going to change the customization industry as well as change how we identify ourselves. Our product is a yin-yang style design with a twist. We personalize our design based on how we identify ourselves. Whether I consider myself to be bisexual and Muslim, Pakistani and American, this design shows all parts of me without the need to hide or fight against who I really am. These designs can be in the form of earrings, pins, t-shirts, and more, but we are currently focusing on sticker production and plan to scale from there. So what exactly is our process? Well, we're going to create a website where customers can tell us all about themselves and their identity through our surveys. Then we're going to take the data that they give us and send it to designers who will create a design. The designers will send the design to Summer and I, and for our stickers, we will personally print and ship them to the customer. We have already received $500 in funding and are currently matching designers with test groups for demo designs. In February, we plan to have created our website, finalized the look for our designs and brand, and invested in supplies for the production process. In May, we want to officially partner with the designers that will work with our brand, release our product to the market, and implement a marketing strategy. So this is a SWOT analysis, which is going to go over our strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats for our growing business. Our strengths are unique branding, consistent quality, and customer loyalty. They all differentiate us from competitors and creates an irreplaceable community. Our weaknesses include a lack of funding, reputation, and scale. We need at least $2,000 to continue developing our demo products. Not only that, but our lack of reputation means that we're competing against larger brands that have already claimed their space in the market. And our lack of scale means that higher costs will hurt us more than larger brands. For our opportunities, we have the growing market for corporate health as well as personalized products. The 2021 industry revenue for corporate health and wellness sat at $6.6 billion and is projected to grow to $7.3 billion in 2026. The demand for personalized products has also increased with technological advancement and the growth of personal consumption. And for our threats, we have smaller brands and larger retailers that are competing for a similar space in the health and wellness market, and they provide a customer base for smaller shops. Our target audience is 14 to 21-year-olds because they're at a point in life where they're just figuring out who they are. In addition, we are targeting millennials who will work in a corporate setting to maximize our relationship with organizations who may hire us to create designs for their employees. Having something representative of their identity could ease the pressure of going through such life changes while spreading an overall sense of unity. Our product is our designs that can be placed on multiple items such as t-shirts, jewelry, and more, which keeps our business scalable. We sell exclusively online through our website, keeping the exchange simple and easily recognizable to our brand. We are considering a price that is affordable to the younger demographic, but guarantees a profit margin for each transaction. And we are currently negotiating prices with designers. We want to use social media platforms like Instagram and LinkedIn in order to promote to a broader audience as well as our younger demographic. So how exactly do we monetize this? Well, we want to monetize by focusing on 2 groups, selling to individual customers as well as organizations. For individual customers, we will be encouraging cross-selling where we would market different products of ours to existing customers to maximize our rate of return. But right now, we're just focusing on stickers. We're also considering sponsorships with larger organizations who may have mental health campaigns or programs for their employees. They would pay us a flat fee for a mass amount of designs for their organization rather than just individual products.
And like Summer said, we're currently negotiating our price with designers, but we expect a price between $3 and $10 to maximize our revenue and keep our affordability. And for our anticipated expenses, we are currently investing the majority of our money in hiring designers, as well as creating demo designs, which will be about $2,000 for us. In addition, we will need funds to start our promotional campaign later on, as well as investing in supplies to support our production process.
We are excited to introduce you to Moya and the Yang, a business innovating customization, as well as creating new ways for our identities to shine. No more hiding,
no more fighting,
and no more compromising with who we are.
Thank you.
Great work. We're going to go straight into our 10 minutes for Q&A with our judges.
Jeff, you jumping in? Sorry. Well, great presentation, ladies. I want to dive right into, I'm a numbers guy, but right into the money component of it. So you mentioned starting with stickers and your price range was from $3 to $10. Can you explain what your reasoning would be for a sticker at $3 versus a sticker at $10?
Yeah, of course. So the reason why we were starting with something cheap was because our audience tends to be younger individuals who are from an upper middle class background. So we want to make sure that whatever price we put is strategized based on the market we're working with. And we want to make sure that whatever we make is affordable to our audience. And the reason why we said $10 as a maximum is because we also have to consider the many distribution levels that we have. Between us and the customer, we have to go through many different distributors, including a designer, and that decreases the amount of profit margin that we have as we go through the different distribution levels. So just in case we end up having larger costs, we might need to accommodate our prices and change them.
So is this design something you can patent or copyright, or is this something you can protect?
We ideally do want to protect it, but while we are in the brainstorming process of it, we don't exactly know exactly how they'll look. And especially since this is meant to appeal to the uniqueness of everyone, there is a bit of versatility in what the design will look like, but hopefully we will be moving forward with patenting it once we have an ideal design that's set and I guess strict to each customer.
Did you buy the domain name? Do you have the website ready yet?
We are currently in the process of buying our domain name. We actually bought it yesterday.
Okay. Because right now it's not showing you bought it. So I would get on that right after you get off of this and make sure you own it.
Mm-hmm.
Right now you don't. So make sure you buy it as
okay,
soon
I'll
as you
double
get
check
off the
that.
call.
Thank
All
you.
right? As soon as you get off the call.
Well done, ladies. I love what you put together here. Just a quick question. Talk to me a little bit about the market research that you've done with your ideal customers.
Yeah, of course. So like we said, we're basically focusing on a younger demographic. Typically, you would see that like ideally as like, for example, UMass Amherst students, people who are going through transitional changes in their lives. And especially during the pandemic, we feel that it's especially relevant for us to find, I guess, our uniqueness and our space within ourselves. So that's why we were focusing on a younger demographic, because as we are all going through transitional changes, I feel like it would be great to embrace our uniqueness. And we were also focusing, we said a little bit about this, but sort of corporate culture. We were thinking that it would be great for like, not just corporate culture, but maybe even schools, like focusing on connecting with these organizations and finding ways to promote mental health campaigns. So we wanted to make sure we were targeting not just young adults, but also corporate culture, maybe millennials who are also going through their own individual and unique identities and changes.
I think that's fantastic. It's such an important topic right now. Could you also speak a little bit about the designers and how you'll go about finding the perfect folks to bring these designs to life?
Yeah, of course. So what we're currently focusing on is creativity, innovation, and a real passion for helping others. So we really want to make sure that whatever we're working on when it comes to designers are people who really invest in our idea of individuality and uniqueness. And like I said, we are currently investing our time in partnering designers with potential customers, and we have already developed test groups for that. So we are currently researching designers and trying to figure out who would really embody our vision and our passion. And the whole point of it is to have uniqueness. So we're not trying to limit ourselves based on just one type of design. We're trying to appeal to many different beliefs, customs, and styles of in designing and embodying our identities.
Is there going to be a digital component of your stickers, or are you looking at actual hard products, like something that is tangible versus being able to say, if I bought a design, am I able to get a digital copy to put on my social media?
Yeah, so I think that's something that we were really considering. At the moment, we were considering a physical sticker, but as we do scale and get larger, we also want to incorporate the digital aspect of it. Like a great thing about corporate culture and also young adults is that we can add this to our LinkedIn, we can add this to our Instagram, we can add this to our other social media profiles to really show people who we are. So we are thinking that with our stickers, we will have a digital component where you can put it on your social media.
So for right now, if I'm understanding this correctly, right? So somebody comes and they tell you all the things that are important to them, that makes them who they are, and that information is given to a designer who then creates, something that is it's almost like a unique logo, a brand for that individual based on their own specific results. And just think about how to scale this over time as as the business grows. Is your vision to keep doing individual designers for every individual that comes in, and then selling products for $5 to $10, or what's the future of the business?
Yeah, that's a great question. So I think a big issue of ours was the whole scale and distribution level of it, because we know that hiring an individual designer will cause individual hefty costs. We're hoping that we can hire designers who will personally work for us in the future, and they'll be able to make a couple designs for us for not each customer, but for like say 5 to 10 customers within like 1 week or a 2-week time frame. And so yeah, we're hoping that we are able to hire like a set amount of designers and like designers that we are passionate and we love working with in order to have that stability and have definite people we are investing in.
Okay. And then maybe just with the price points you're talking about, selling these things at, how many customers would you need to support, to support a designer to be, I don't know what the cost of a designer is, but to support a designer, how many customers would you need to support that cost structure?
Yeah, so to support designers, that's actually a really interesting question. What we are currently doing in the demo process is hiring designers for an individual one-time design just to see what their vibe is, what the designers look like, what the energy they're bringing to the table. So right now we're focusing on individual designers and their designs, but later on what we want to do is we want to hire these designers and have them mass produce designs for us at a lower cost. So that would mean like, say, having them produce, let's say 50 designs within a month or maybe 2 months. And then these designers would hopefully, once we have a relationship with them, develop it at a lower cost than it would be to develop just one sticker. So right now, the cost it would be is about $5 to $50 for one design. And that varies a lot based on the quality, the time, the investment, the amount of variability within your design, the amount of feedback that you can give to designers. Like I said, once we hire designers and put them under our wing, we're hoping that we can have about a mass-produced price of $5 to $10 for each sticker.
Is it possible for you to build something on the back end for others, for everyone to design their own logo, where you can go on and someone can pull from here, curve, do this, do that, and then you don't need the designers. You've created the computer or the programming behind the website to be able to create the design, so you don't need that variable cost of designers per se.
I love that question because we were actually considering that for a long time, like whether or not we want to build like basically our own Photoshop, our own Canva, our own creative elements so that designers wouldn't be necessary. And you're right, that would be cutting the cost. We are currently considering that, but the only issue we have with that right now is that it increases the amount of time and energy in releasing products. And it also, a big issue is that not everyone is creative. And we realize that we want to make sure that not just creative people have the opportunity to express themselves, but that designers can also work with them to create their designs. But as we move further in this process and we develop our website, we are considering having elements that customers themselves can shift and rotate based on what they like and what appeals to them for the more creative customers.
Got it. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Have you
like what you said
explored?
there.
Sorry.
Yeah, okay, sorry, Amy. I was gonna say, I like what you said there about the not being creative part, because that definitely is like a selling point for this. I guess just a quick question for you. What do you specifically see yourself doing with the seed funding if you were to secure it from the group?
Of course, thank you. So like we said, we are currently focusing on creating designs and having those demo products out there. So right now our focus is developing our brand and really knowing what is going to stick between each design. Because like we said, each design is going to differ based on the individuality of the person, but we want to make sure that there's at least some element that's like the same. And we also want to make sure that we have designers that we trust and we respect and that respect our values and vision. So like I said, we're focusing on designs and designers and really just setting a solid footing before we move forward and publicize our work. And then later on, what we want to do is we want to invest money in supplies, aka machinery. So Summer and I said that we will personally be creating the stickers, well, printing the stickers. The designers will create the design. So we want to invest in sticker machinery, and we also want to do some advertising on Instagram, LinkedIn, Pinterest to be able to promote.
Fantastic. Thank you, team. We're yin and yang. We're so glad to have you here today. Great work.
Thank you.
Thank you. Judges, you know the drill. We're going to give you about 5 minutes to fill in the scorecard. Once we have your scorecards, we're going to pull up the next team and go on from there. Okay, there's Alvin. Alvin, you are welcome to screen share. As soon as you start pitching, we will start timing. As a reminder, you have 5 minutes to pitch with 10 minutes of Q&A. I'm going to turn it right on over to you.
All right, is everything look good?
That's great.
All right, awesome. Should I just start whenever?
Yes, as soon as you start going, we'll start timing.
All right, sounds good. Hi, everybody. My name is Alvin, and I'm here to present Ramir. We're focusing on AI therapy. In AI therapy, one of the main things that we're focusing on is artificial empathy, which is trying to create a bond between people and computers and trying to leverage that to being able to create scalable and also really impactful solutions. Artificial empathy is being able to make it so that the device or computer is able to interact with the individual user while feeling like it's an actual person and feeling like giving the artificial feeling that you're actually able to interact with the computer. The problem is that artificial intelligence has a lot of limitations, although it's been taking the world by storm and also having a lot of greatly impactful change. It lacks the connection with individuals and users and also the potential empathy. And it's not able to resonate with people on a deeper human interaction level. Additionally, people's mental health has been increasingly struggling, especially after the COVID pandemic, and mental health resources have been increasingly difficult to access. And also there's a lot of stigma around reaching out for help. So a lot of people aren't able to because of that. Our product is Ramir. Ramir is an artificial empathy startup that works on creating seamless conversation that makes you feel heard, listened to, and understood. Traditionally, if you think about smart home devices and you're trying to conversate with it, you can tell that it's not a person, but our device focuses on using machine learning to be able to track individual users' speech pathology and using that to respond in certain ways. For example, if you go home one day and you decide to talk to it and say, hey, I'm having a rough day, this happens, and it notices that your voice is lower, slower, and maybe your sentences end on a downturn. Essentially what it would do is you would be able to pick up that all of these certain things have negative change and be able to respond in a way that matches your pitch, tone, and speed and sound of its voice to mirror yours, essentially modeling and creating a human-like dialogue that changes based off of how you speak. If you came and spoke with excitement and was like, hey, guess what? This happened. It would also raise its voice and in doing that, be able to continue to converse with you in that way. The current market size is 30.1% for the constant annual growth rate for the AI market and is scheduled to reach over 239 million by the next 5 years. And also there are more than 76 million adults that are hiding from mental disorders. And this would be greatly impactful for them due to the fact that the main barrier between artificial therapy is the lack of communication between the devices and the people. So for why us, Ramir has in the past competed in the KPMG Ideation Challenge, which was one of the largest undergraduate case competitions in the United States and made it to the US semifinals. And also personally, I've competed in more than 20 competitions and placed in more than 10 of them. And this is the 5th startup that I've been working on. And in the past, I've also worked on more than 30 different ones that I've consulted for. Also, in the last year and a half, I've generated more than $300,000 in revenue directly for startups and clients that I've worked with. And in the past, I've also grown over 75,000 Instagram followers and understand growth marketing to take this to the next level. And currently, last semester, I worked at Discord for branding and currently working at Dell. And I'm growing connections and contacts and also Google and Amazon to being able to promote this and also work for further connections and also being able to eventually use an exit strategy to sell it to one of the larger companies. Our current competitors, which are competitors not exactly in the same space, but a little bit different. Replica is an AI chatbot friend that is trying to communicate with people as well, but doesn't have the voice differentiation and also doesn't focus on therapy. Amazon Web Services has AI services traditionally for different businesses, but they don't really have the humanized effect of being able to change how fast it speaks and responds based off the individual user, which is a crucial component. Blatherapy is an online text therapy application, but it doesn't offer the same voice interaction, and traditional therapy can be very costly and also more difficult to reach. Our ask is $10,000. For the first $1,000, we'd be able to further our pitch development and also our funding, and $3,000 would allow us to continue the business development and create good positive marketing and PR. $10,000 would allow us to provide the next provisional patent and continue R&D, which is the next plan, and then $50,000 would provide us a good space as a key player in the market and continue to search for funding there. Thank you, and any questions?
Perfect. Thank you, Alvin. We're going to go straight into our 10-minute Q&A with judges.
All right, I guess I'll start. So good presentation. I don't know, maybe it's just me because I don't understand this space, but did you explain how you're going to do it? And maybe you can explain how you're going to go forth with the AI piece. Is this something you've done? Is this something you've done in the past? And what does it entail to get to that point where you can start talking to the computer? Because I'm just a little confused.
Yeah, absolutely. So I didn't go super in depth in some of the tech side in the presentation, but we've been working a little bit on it. And also this is more of like a deep tech startup in the sense that it's sort of researching and developing something that's new and hasn't been done before. And also the applications of machine learning that is being applied to speech has not before, which is also why we're looking to go for the provisional patent as soon as we reach that capability. And then hopefully within the next year with more funding and research, be able to apply for a patent to be able to use that as our differentiation to prevent other companies from following suit. The main differentiator is that in the communication between the robot or the computer and the individual, it tracks how it is that you're speaking to it based off of the pitch, tones, and frequency. So, and then alters itself to match that. So essentially, if it picks up like words that are more separated, and then like the sort of audio files are looking a certain way, essentially, it will modify itself and then stretch out, reduce, or change itself to try to model the type of speaking and language that you use so that it feels like it's following your conversation and it sounds like you're actually conversing and that it listens and understands, even though it's not actually understanding.
But even if I walk into the house and I'm really down and I'm talking in a certain way, what's the benefit of having my robot talk in the same way? Isn't it, and I don't know enough about that, but wouldn't you want the robot to try to cheer you up in a way? Or is that the therapy process where they're going to talk in the same way and try to make sure that they can get through to you on the same level?
Yeah, absolutely. So in therapy and in human and robotic communication, one of the major struggles is that when people talk to their devices for both like smart home devices and other things, they struggle greatly with feeling like it's just a robot. So that's why people sort of like don't treat it as a person. They kind of just like swear at it and those kinds of things. And they really don't treat it as a person at all. And our plan is to be able to have it pass a partial Turing test. So individuals would not be able to tell that who they're talking with is not actually another person on the line. And the only way in doing that is to be able to have the computer itself be able to alter its speech patterns based off of individual responses, because currently creating humanized voices doesn't offer anything like that, because even if it responds with like a human voice, you can tell that it's not actually conversing in you because it doesn't respond, because it feels like its empathy and feeling doesn't change as you change. So that way, as it mirrors you, then in a way, people will also grow a certain bond towards their devices and these kinds of things. And also it'll grow with trust and also be able to help them rant about things and then converse in that manner.
Thank you.
Alvin, great job here. Can you speak a little bit more about the therapy component? So is the therapeutic value just that they're speaking to a computer that is showing understanding, or is it going to be more like traditional therapy where there are therapeutic goals and something that you're working towards?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. So in the sense of online therapy, there's already other existing things working on chatbots to provide goals and stuff like that. And that's something that we may potentially partner with, but isn't our current focus. It would be mainly to be able to create something that you'd feel understood for. And also the differentiator of being able to have like an actual person on the line is that now we would be able to duplicate this at will, essentially, and give it to the whole world. And everybody would be able to access this. And people would all essentially be able to get therapeutic help with the click of a button.
It's such important work. So are you envisioning that this would be via a phone call, or would there be some sort of a visual component like an avatar?
For now, it would be like a phone call component, but an avatar could definitely be one of the future branches. I've also looked into a lot of potential applications, because just the fact of like conversational AI is a very, very huge market. But right now, starting off with the focus of bringing this product to market, and then hopefully in the future being able to broaden and then do that as well.
And is your plan to roll it out direct to customer, or are you thinking of going through organizations that they would then offer as a benefit to their employees?
As of right now, I'm just developing the technology as a base, and then also being able to put out prototypes to test out. And then in the long-term future, more likely be acquired as merger acquisitions, and then either be acquired or form a major partnership with a much larger company so that it's able to reach and expand much further.
Awesome. Thank you.
Hey, Alvin. I think this is an interesting idea. Just thinking about the first, seed funding, and I think you had put together a timeline of what that'd be put towards. I imagine this is a very complex issue in terms of trying to get AI to be more humanized. Would that first, $10,000 or so really just to be like researching if it's even feasible, or is it actually to build out the functionality of an AI?
So the feasibility, I've already done a decent amount of research on, and it seems like it's definitely not like out of the picture, and it definitely seems possible. The $10,000 would allow me to very much expand into being able to work with a lot more, like both professors and PhDs from different universities. I've currently reached out to a lot and have been having a lot of these conversations, but being able to actually pay people and then also have like a standing point to build up like a company where more of a reputation is built around it. And also the provisional patent, and also searching for a patent in the process that we're working on making this happen, would be able to differentiate ourselves and also actually be able to fully access that. And $10,000 would allow us to get to that point, which is the crucial number.
Yeah, and just thinking through, some of the other companies that are sophisticated in AI, so like IBM, Google, with their, chat features. I guess, do you think that you have a head start on these companies, and that's what you're trying to get to, or is it something you don't even think they're focused on right now?
So in corporate entrepreneurship, one of the major benefits of you being like a tech startup rather than working in a large corporation is that you're able to take reins and then be able to control wherever things go. In larger corporations, they're more bogged down by like needing to get approvals through multiple different ways in order to be able to get funding. And that's why we've also been seeing a great increase in AI mergers and acquisitions. Just in the last 3 years alone, there's been more than 600 to 800 AI startups that have been acquired by big tech companies. And this is also because a lot of the research and development that happens, larger companies would rather not take initial risk and work on it with employees and rather buy out different talent and then different products to be able to get integrated in as a larger picture, and they have the money to do so.
Got it.
Hey, Alvin, have you thought about the monitoring component of the AI information in the sense of age groups? And I think particularly, thinking middle school to high school in the high potential suicide rate, in the sense of, is there a monitoring to that? And then what is the privacy of that look like? And would any of that information be shared with their healthcare providers? And have you thought about that component of the system?
So in the past, we've thought about the applications of creating individual person profiles and then being able to tell and building up stuff about potentially say different people's habits, what tends to cheer people up after what happens. So say if a person reaches through a certain type of low point, maybe this sort of activity may cheer them up, or also just the whole integration of understanding the individual. Then that also goes into a very sort of gray line of information, what can be taken in and where that will be shared. That'll definitely be researched, but it probably won't be one of the initial things focused on. But it can definitely be a future application.
Yeah, I guess maybe I'm just really curious as to the therapy aspect of this versus, it sounds like this will just be an overall improvement to AI technology and in conversing with devices in general. So maybe is there something unique with the therapy space versus all these other applications that you think is important to address?
Because in the therapy space, it's absolutely crucial to have this human versus robot interaction be that way. While other things, it would create an added benefit of oh, okay, this is going to make our conversation slightly better. But in therapy, it's an absolutely crucial and potential life-changing difference for AI therapy.
Fantastic. Thank you, Alvin. Thank you for joining us today. Judges, as you know, you're going to have a couple of minutes to fill in the scorecard, and then we're going to pull up our next pitcher. Okay, team, as our judges are filling in their final scorecard, if you would like to pull up your deck at this point, you're more than welcome to do so.
Can you see the screen?
Yes, it looks great. I will let you know once our judges are ready, and I'll turn it over to you to start your pitch.
Yeah, no problem. Thank you.
Okay, we have all of our scorecards. Team, as a reminder, you have 5 minutes to pitch with 10 minutes of Q&A. We are going to be off video as soon as you see me back on the screen. That either means to wrap your pitch or wrap your Q&A at that time. Best of luck to you and your team. As soon as you start pitching, we will start timing.
All right, cool. Thank you.
All right. Yeah, I'm ready. You start.
Hello, my name is Jalen Zong.
And my name is Nathan Wilcock.
And this is our presentation on KKI by Endeavor. And now the problem we're looking to address in this presentation is that there's an epidemic going on in the US that isn't being addressed very commonly. That is the overwhelming amount of fatigue in the average citizen. You might not think that's a big deal. The amount of drowsiness you get, you just a cup of coffee to solve it, right? But actually, drowsiness decreases productivity in students during class. If you have a 9 to 5 and you're working late hours and have dangerous situations on the road, and you might not think that's very common, but actually statistics show that
over 20% of Americans actually admit to having gone behind the wheel of a car in their last year while being drowsy. And the NCS did a study, and they found that if you've gone over 20 hours without getting sleep, and then you start driving, that's equal to being behind the wheel with a 0.08 blood alcohol concentration, which is the US limit. So if you're getting behind the wheel while having, not had enough sleep, this is not just dangerous for you, but it's dangerous for other people financially, and it could risk their lives. And furthermore, it's frequently common, as many people have admitted to doing it.
Yeah, so what we've actually come up with is our solution is, we've created what is commonly, worn by the people, We all have our smartwatches here, Apple Watch, Google Watch. A lot of people is becoming an increasingly common wearable technology, and we try to implement our software within that technology. So what we've come up with is a smartwatch that actually makes it so you will not be drowsy anymore. It'll keep you alert by using biometric data in these smartwatches. Like, how you can measure oxygen, blood level, you can measure heart rate, you can measure even movement. It has motion sensors in it. We can compile all that data into an algorithm and then make sure that if that, sparks that, you're fatigued and you're driving, it should probably wake you up so that you aren't a danger to other people on the road. And it'll wake you up in a variety of different ways. A stimulus include like vibrations or a shock. Maybe we can implement sound, anything that works for you and will not inhibit your ability to drive.
So our target demographic is frankly pretty wide, as so many people are drive. You could be a trucker, you could just, be on a long commute to work, and so many people are behind the wheel. Almost everyone owns a car. And, students, as we mentioned earlier, you could be falling asleep in a lecture, or, maybe you just need the sign to go to sleep. Maybe you're up late studying, and it's just been a long day, and you're dozing off, but you just keep like, oh, come on, a little bit more. Really, you need the sign. You need something to tell you it's time. You got to call it off. There are so many jobs as well that rely on people, staying awake. If you're working a night shift, if you're, a doctor, if you're a night watchman, something like that, then you're going to be. It's imperative that you stay awake on the job, because otherwise people's lives could be lost.
In the business model for this watch, we've gotten a couple of quotes from software developers and manufacturers, and we can see that there's no shortage of space for us in the smartwatch industry. 48.14 billion valuation in 2018. That's huge. In the past 3 years, it has only grown with the Apple Watch Series 6 and Series 7, with Google Watch coming out, with the Samsung Watch, all these big players going into this industry is indicative of the growing aspect of the industry. And now the average consumer smartwatch right now is valued at $250. The KCAI is a bit different because we are actually trying to, we're trying more for the biometric sensor part. We're not selling the part where you can use, your watch as a phone. We're more selling the practicality of having the watch. And the cost to produce will be roughly $80 per watch, depending on the quantity. And the quotes from our manufacturers, we've gotten a quote from overseas that'll take $2,000 for a prototype watch mold to get our prototype for like a mold, like an Apple Watch or electronic prototype. And then the software will take about $12,000 to $15,000 to develop based around our, increasing demands, or, if there's a new technology that, we need to implement.
So the market is, frankly, as we just mentioned, it's huge. There's so many competitors: Apple, Samsung, Google, and we really just need to find our niche inside of it, because there's so many people out there that, there's definitely room for us to fit in, and it shouldn't be too hard. We just need to find people who are looking for watches that are, they need something, they need it to, it's imperative. Maybe they have some health problem. They really need to know advanced biometrics about themselves. Or maybe, as as many of the people we mentioned before, maybe they don't want to fall asleep. Maybe they're trying to, stay awake when they need to.
So our request, as before mentioned, the prototype will cost $2,000, and this will further increase our R&D. And we will definitely try and get the prototype, and this will advance our product to move to an actual thing. So thank you guys so much for your time. It's cutting a bit short, but thank you.
Great, thank you. We are going to go straight into our 10-minute Q&A with our judges.
Awesome, great pitch, guys. Can you speak a little bit more about the functionality of the watch in terms of, are you envisioning that this would replace somebody from having a smart watch on their wrist? Would it have phone capabilities, messaging, things like that, or would it be in addition to?
So right now, the software we are actually developing, we're trying to include all of the available biometrics from the Apple Watch. We already know, like, our Apple Watches, Samsung Watches can do incredible things in trying to measure biometric data. A lot of health patients already use these types of technologies to measure their own, if they need like a shot or something like that. It's really good for that. But we believe that we created an algorithm on our business plan. It's as a sort of theory, and that requires a lot of machine learning. So we believe that we will have to replace some of the existing parts. Like, you won't be able to call your mother on your smartwatch. That's one downside. But, at least you won't crash, when you're in the car and you're feeling drowsy. So we believe there is an upside to it. If worse comes to worse and we aren't available, and the funding is not available to actually create the whole smartwatch, we'll just probably lease out our software And then probably in that little camp, we'll have our little revenue cave. So yeah.
And so is your smartwatch, is there technology in there that's proprietary, or is this something that a place like Apple or one of the other smartwatch manufacturers could, just create an app that would do something similar based on the data they're already collecting?
Well, our current plan is that, once we create the information, we think that if it was easy for the other companies to make, these companies are worth billions of dollars, we're sure that they already would have. So our plan is to implement it. And then once it works for us and once it works for obviously our customers, our hope is that we can then be acquired by, our software could be acquired by one of these bigger companies that would also, see how successful we've been and they'd want a piece of it. And so then we would be able to sell our work to them. And it'd be a win-win.
Also, to add on to that, it isn't exactly the same type of technology that is already proprietary in the Apple Watches and Samsung Watches. Like the aforementioned, we are planning in our theory, which is listed on our business document, that we will actually use motion sensors. But in the Apple Watch right now, there isn't something that's that precise. There will have to be sacrifices if we are to make our own smartwatch model that will actually be inherent to the actual practicality of making you stay awake. So there will be sacrifices and like maybe you won't be able to take a call or something like that. But generally, yeah. So new technology, new biometric sensors would probably have to be implemented.
Okay. So this is both a hardware and software combined product that's necessary. Okay.
So specifically to the biometrics, when you're wearing a watch and it's on your hands on the steering wheel, are there biometrics that can sense that your heartbeat's slowing down, that you're falling asleep? Because your competitors are certainly the other devices, which there are plenty, I'm sure, the fatigue alarms that you put around your ears, because it knows if you're dozing, if your head's dropping. That's automatic, and that will ring in your ears until your head explodes, and then you will, you will wake up. So that I can understand. What if you're holding onto the steering wheel? If your hand, I don't always drive with two hands, but if your hand drops, how are you going to exactly be able to tell?
Right.
I know scientists, but how do you tell that someone's falling asleep with an Apple Watch or any watch?
Yeah, no problem. That's a pretty good question, actually. So we've done competitive research. So there is actually a product out there that has failed. There's a Kickstarter named Steer, but they failed due to like cash flow problems and they couldn't actually get a prototype out. But the algorithm is there, and they had a prototype on that could actually detect, what the that could actually detect when someone's falling asleep while they were in the car. The problem with that product, and we've analyzed it, it was literally like a hunk of steel on your wrist. It felt like one of those like motion monitors you have to wear when you're under house arrest, right? And that's not something you'd really want when you're in a car trying to drive. What we've developed is something much more like data driven. And you're right in the sense that other companies do have the data, where you have the blood oxygen level, where you have the motion level, and you have all the heart rate level. But on the theory we've laid out in the business plan is we're actually planning not only to take the motion, but we're also planning to take like the average heart rate level for 5 minutes and then compare and contrast that to the average heart rate level of 10 minutes and then 15 minutes. And there's like a very big, there's a very nice algorithm tied into all this, but it also requires a lot of machine learning. So it will obviously, not everyone will have the same like drowsiness level in the car. So it will be adaptive to the person that's wearing it. So it's like the average heart rate level of Nathan is not that of the same as mine. So it would obviously adapt, to both of ours, and it will learn over time. When we start falling asleep, it'll start to shock us and so on. Yes.
Thank you.
No problem.
So understanding that the smartwatch is a flooded market, have you thought about who your target audience is going to be?
Yeah. So our target audience, we understand that, even though the smartwatch market has a huge valuation, there are a lot of big players, Fitbit, Apple Watch, Samsung, Google. We've looked into all of those, incredibly dense, but the thing is, our niche is that we value practicality and biometric data sensing over the actual, convenience of having, a phone on your wrist. This is specifically for people like me. I admittedly doze off a lot when driving on long stretches because my commute to school is actually an hour long. And You know, when you're staring at the same scenery for an hour, it's very difficult to like, be alert. And it's very difficult to load up on caffeine all the time because that's unhealthy as well, and obviously build up a tolerance to that type of stuff. And that's the type of target demographic we want to target. Like people that are on night watchmen, like in maximum security prisons, you wouldn't want to fall asleep in a job like that. You'll probably die, you'll get fired. You're a truck driver, you drive for more than 36 hours in a single stretch. You don't want to crash with like thousands of pounds of payload. It's the stuff like that where I believe they will value our watch over buying an Apple Watch because it's more detrimental. Their situation is more detrimental to their health than, just having a convenient piece of technology on the wrist.
Awesome. Have you thought about how quickly the information that the watch is receiving before it actually alerts the participant? And then have you also thought about the types of alerts? I know in there, the business plan you wrote that a flashing light could be there. Is that something of concern that might panic somebody in the middle of driving to potentially see a flashing light and kind of swerve the wrong way?
Yeah, definitely to answer the second part of that question. There's gonna be many different ways that you can receive notifications. It could be a vibration, as mentioned. It could be a shock, as you just mentioned. It could be a light. There could be a noise. So there's tons of different ways, and you can kind of customize that to what your needs are. Obviously, if someone maybe had like epilepsy or something, they wouldn't want to see a flashing light. That would be worse than probably like dozing off. Or if someone maybe had like sensitive ears or something like that, they really wouldn't want to hear a really loud noise. Or if they're maybe in like company or something, they wouldn't want a loud noise, like waking everyone else up and like annoying everyone else around you. So it would definitely be customizable to what you want, what like wakes you up the fastest and the best, and personal experiences and stuff.
Oh, sorry, what was the first part of that question? I apologize.
How quick is the response? Because you mentioned one of the biometrics is the heart rate. So obviously, if that's slowing down, doesn't necessarily mean we're dozed off yet. So how quickly is that catching that to when it's triggering the person to say wake up again?
So in our algorithm, it collects a lot of data, like a shit ton of so when you're falling asleep and you wear your Apple Watch, it will collect that data throughout the time that you're asleep and will categorize that as your sleeping heart rate, right? That average and that range will kind of be assorted as your sleeping heart rate. And then when you're active, that's the same thing. When you're running, that's the same thing. They'll categorize that into like a single sort of package. So what we do in the algorithm, and I'm simplifying a little bit, is that we'll basically take the average of 5-minute heart rate and then into 3-minute, and it'll be much more precise. So the average response time will probably be less than 1 minute than, when you're starting to feel a little bit drowsy, because, the heart rate, it does start to slow down before you start to feel like that melatonin buildup starts to get to you, So we've done a lot of testing, mostly on myself as well, in this field as well. So
to add on to this, there is definitely like a difference between your resting heart rate and then the heart rate that your body goes to, or your heart goes to when you start to fall asleep. It goes down, it drops by about 15 to 20%. So, me sitting on my, sitting in my bed and then just reading a good book, whatever, that would be a resting heart rate. But if I started dozing off behind the wheel at a point where it would become dangerous, that would dip below like a significant level, which could send an obvious message to the watch, and then that would send a message to you.
And just one more, it's also not just the heart rate, obviously. It's also like the response time is also tuned based off of maybe motion. So I know when I'm driving, I keep my hands up here, right? But I don't always.
Fantastic. Thank you, team. I think we're a little bit over time.
Sorry.
Thank you for joining us here today. We appreciate you.
Thank you, guys. Thank you, judges.
Thank you.
Okay, judges, you have a few minutes to fill in your scorecard, and then we have a gift, which is a 20-minute break for you to get up, stretch, walk around if you'd like to. We are going to be back here by 3:40 for our next pitch sharp. So feel free to take a quick break, reach out to us if you have any questions as we're going through, but we are here and we appreciate you as you're filling in those scorecards and getting ready for our next pitch.
And Carly, just for the folks in the audience, We will be back, but I think Carly's gonna put some more fancy music on for us to groove to.
Okay, welcome back. We will be starting up in about 2 minutes. Judges, just a quick reminder to please fill in the scorecard for the last pitch. If you haven't done so, we are going to pull up our next pitcher in about 1 minute before we get started again. Okay, welcome back to the executive pitch competition. We still have 6 more pitchers here this afternoon who are competing for that $15,000 in equity-free funding from the UMass Birthing Center for Entrepreneurship. Judges, thank you for turning back on your screens. We just want to make sure all of our judges are here before we pop into our next pitch. Welcome JB from FUD, who's going to be our first pitcher after this break. JB, I'm going to let you start to screen share your deck, so we're make sure that's all ready to go, and then I'll let you know when we're good and all set.
Sounds great. I will pull that up right now. All right. Hopefully, can you see my screen right now?
Yes, it looks great.
Okay, wonderful.
I just want to make sure, do we still have Austin on the call?
Yep, I'm here.
Oh, perfect. Okay. JB, I'm going to turn it over to you. As a reminder, you have 5 minutes to pitch with 10 minutes of Q&A. We are going to start the timer as soon as you start pitching, just like we do for all of our pitches.
Right.
I'm going to turn it over to you. You have the stage. Good luck, JB.
Great, thank you. Hi, my name is JB, and FUD is an app that will enhance your dining experience by cutting out unnecessary wait times and bringing the focus back to you, your family, and your friends from the moment you start looking for a restaurant to when you take your last bite. Experience FUD, where we're putting the fun back in food. The restaurant industry suffered a massive blow last year, losing $240 billion in revenue due to COVID. As locations try reopening, they need all the help they can to get back on their feet, but current online ordering and reservation services meant to support these restaurants just aren't cutting it. A restaurant manager's main goals include increasing revenue by maximizing table turnover. And to accomplish their goal, they use an online ordering and reservation service which costs $249 per month. Not only that, but these services charge an additional 30% of the total bill for each order. Lastly, when an online order gets canceled, they're often left in the dark unless they spend their limited time calling customer service, and that leaves them very unsatisfied. But aside from increasing revenue, managers also focus on removing their customers' pain points to provide them with an unforgettable dining experience. But what are these user pain points? Well, imagine yourself with your friends getting ready to go out to eat on a Friday night. First, you all spend a painfully slow 20 minutes just looking for a restaurant, debating whether to eat barbecue or tacos, only to settle on sushi. Then you head to the restaurant, wait 10 minutes to be seated, wait 20 minutes for your food, and wait 10 minutes for your bill. I don't know about you, but I'm hearing a whole lot of waiting and not a whole lot of eating. Our solution is FUD, an app that will maximize restaurant table turnover and drastically increase the satisfaction of a restaurant's customers. Now picture a similar user scenario, except now you're using FUD. You and your friends get on the app, and the first thing you see is a single restaurant card showing you all the information you need. From there, you and your friends start choosing restaurants by swiping right for yes or left for no. Our smart algorithm takes all individual preferences into account and recommends what you're most likely to agree on. So if you love tacos, but your friends hate it, but you all love sushi, the app will recommend you sushi. That's why within 5 minutes of swiping, you've all matched a great sushi place in town. Now you choose how you want to order. And knowing you hate waiting for your food, you choose FUD's brand new way of dining, pre-ordering. With pre-ordering, you choose the food you want to eat ahead of time, make a reservation, and pay on the app. Now, when you head to the restaurant, you're seated right away, your food arrives minutes after you sit down, and you can leave as soon as you're done because you've already paid. With our unique features, FUD will quickly become a market leader. Our pre-ordering feature directly increases table turnover for restaurants by getting customers to spend less time waiting. It also allows users to take full control of their dining experience by removing unnecessary wait times and focusing entirely on their friends and their food, or in other words, the best parts of dining. Our smart algorithm gives everyone a voice and satisfies every craving by considering each person's preferences, from interests like Italian cuisine to specific details like peanut allergies and desires to support Black-owned restaurants in the community. Our group swiping functions take the most exciting parts of social media and marry them with the online ordering experience, allowing users to connect as a group during the search process and order together, making it far more fun and engaging. So as you can see from the competitive landscape, no other app does this. FUD will charge restaurants a monthly subscription fee and take 0% from all online orders. On our most basic plan, we'd break even with 199 restaurants, and with 300 restaurants, we generate $234,000 in revenue. Our full launch will be in Boston, where there's an abundance of our target markets. And we're competing in a two-sided market. with 3 user target markets and 1 customer target market. Our 3 user markets consist of work professionals, college students, and families. Work professionals have a very limited time for lunch, with 56% having 30 minutes or less, and 47% of them being concerned about long wait times, making them late getting back to work. FUD would allow them to enjoy every minute of a quality meal at a restaurant without having to feel rushed or be late. With college students, 70% enjoy spending their time with friends by going out for food and drinks, and 62% use a mobile app to order their meals. So their focus is having fun. It's not waiting around in boredom, and FUD is the perfect app to help them accomplish their goal. For families, 62% pick restaurants as a group, but 49% of families find the decision-making difficult. Knowing how challenging it can be for every family member to agree with each other, FUD is the perfect way to help an undecided group make an easy decision. And our 1 customer market focuses on full-service restaurants because their revenue is highly dependent on high table turnover and great customer satisfaction. Additionally, out of the 1 million plus restaurants in the US, 80% of them are turning towards technology to help them run their business. Our team consists of 4 members, collectively providing experience in marketing, sales, design, and programming. And I'm currently working full-time, and the rest of the team will be as well after they finish their final year in college. And with app development underway, we'd use funding from this competition to pay more programmers and to fund our marketing. So as restaurants fight to recover from the past year and open back up, there's no better time than now to support them while bringing some fresh new fun to the dining experience. So swipe right on FUD and join us on our journey of putting the fun back in food. Thank you.
Great job, JB. I'm going to turn it over to our judges to start off with the 10-minute Q&A.
Good presentation, JB. Quick question for you on the data that's needed. So have you had the conversation around looking at each restaurant, what data you would need from them in order to put it into the system? You mentioned allergies. So how would you navigate that with the ample amount of ingredients in different plates per the different restaurants and so on and so forth? So have you dove into what that data looks like and what that would take to implement into the app?
Absolutely. So the visual prototype that we made on Bubble that I just showed is definitely more the user-facing side, but on the back end with the customers, restaurants will have their own basically admin page where they can enter their information. And then in there, they can put all their personal info, just in general about like their hours, operating hours, or their menu, information like that. And then with the specific ingredients for each dish, we would like to help restaurants and onboard them when they bring on or they take our service and help them put down that information so that they don't have to really worry about it themselves and go through those details and try to put in as much as we can in terms of ingredients. So it's possible that some restaurants just won't put that information in, but if that's the case, we'll still have the general list of ingredients and we'll try to be as specific as possible while onboarding those restaurants so that customers can get the full story about what is in that food and then they can see it clearly. So it's through the onboarding process.
Awesome.
Great presentation.
Sorry, I was just to add to that. Have you thought about the training that would need to go into that with understanding that restaurants are going to change their menu over time, that's going to be a continued need for that app?
Absolutely. So that is definitely something that we've taken into consideration, which is why with our interface, we're trying to make it as simple as possible for them to use. We don't really want to overcomplicate it. We're even looking into this, again, I say looking into because it's not a feature we have yet, but the possibility of them just taking a picture of their menu and then us being able to autofill their menu onto our app. And so again, trying to really simplify it so that it's not difficult for them to use. And the information they put in there on their page will automatically update. So that's constantly live when they have any changes they want to make. And if it hasn't been changed, I mean, it would just be like them serving an old menu at their restaurant. So ideally, when they're updating their menu, they also will go on the app and update that for them, update that on their profile. So.
Thank you.
I've got 2 questions. First of all, why don't you call it food? Why is it FUD? Sounds like a dud.
FUD is because FUD because we're putting the fun back in food. It's a merge of the two. So that's why. And food is. I'm not sure if we could trademark that or get it registered. That might be too broad.
I like it. So have you spent some time with restaurant owners?
Yes.
Because I'm old and I like to go to a restaurant like I did Saturday night, and we spent 3.5 hours with friends there. We're in no rush, and you didn't put old in your category there that you were focusing on, which is fine. But have you spoken to them? Because you've got people that, use it as a night out, people that want to get in and out, and how does that work with the operation, the flow of their business?
Absolutely. So we have spoken to restaurants before. Over the summer, I actually did the accelerator, the CSVP run by UMass and BVM, and we had to interview over 100 people. So we did get to interview about 20 restaurant owners and managers. And then from that information, we found out that people who stick around for a very long time, they call campers. So there's an industry term right there. And that's perfectly fine because that's just part of the business. So what we're really trying to do, and as you mentioned, we are focusing on a bit of a younger category with college students, work professionals, and just families overall. So for those people who potentially enjoy a more speedier experience, they can have that. And then for people who, and that's where we come in and increase that table turnover where we can and try to make it as effective as possible. And then of course, there are people who are going to want to just sit down and really take their time. And that's also perfectly fine. And restaurants will of course serve them the same way they would with people who want to go faster. One other thing too that I do like to mention is that although our app is about efficiency, it's also about comfort and pleasure with what you want to do. So if you want to go into the restaurant, sure, you want to take your time, but nobody likes sitting there being hungry. So you could just pre-order your drinks and just your appetizers, and then you get to the restaurant, that's ready immediately. And then you can take your time looking at the menu, ordering the rest of your food, but at least you have something to snack on and drink while you're there. So
how does that, currently, I'm assuming with Open Table and Resi, when you make a reservation on those, it knows roughly speaking how long you're going to be in the restaurant. So you can take multiple reservations at that table throughout the night. How does one manage that process from a restaurant perspective? If I'm going to be sitting at this foretop for 10 minutes versus the next, or not 10 minutes, 45 minutes versus the next people that might be there for an hour and a half. And how does a restaurant manage the flow of that so that you don't get to the restaurant and say, I have a reservation for 4 and you end up waiting for a half hour?
Absolutely. Right. So I think that will come down to also providing restaurants with the data about how long people are spending on average. So managers will take that time to figure out, okay, usually tables who come in just out of nowhere, just walk-ins, they take about this much time, reservations take X amount of time. And as you said, Open Table and Resi are providing data about like, on average, here's how long a table will take. So same thing with us, once we start testing, and of course, we're going to go through a beta testing version first before we do a full launch. In that time frame, we'll kind of pick out those details and be able to determine, okay, on average, this is how long a FUD user will spend in the restaurant. And we can give that information to the restaurant managers and owners, and they can control that on their app, on their admin page. And so they'll be able to update live what tables they have available or don't. And so if they feel like they're getting flooded, it's taking too long, they can take some tables off and make them unavailable at that time. And then if they feel like they do have that space for more customers, they can put back up the tables available for reservation if they'd like.
Thank you very much.
So I couldn't like this idea more from a user perspective. Me and my wife just spend countless hours debating what restaurant we're going to go to because neither one of us wants to make a decision. So I really like the user experience that you've laid out and how that would work. Both for me and my wife, which 2 of us should be able to make a decision, but also in larger groups. I like it from a work perspective. And when I gotta want to have lunch, a working lunch, but still need to get back. I guess my questions really more relate to how does it interact with the restaurant, and just thinking about, are they going to have time to update this app versus all the other apps they might have to update? How would it sort of flow into their operations, and would this work seamlessly, or this be like an extra step they would have to go to sort of manage this app?
Absolutely. So that's definitely one thing that we're trying to be very conscious of, because trying to interview restaurant managers and owners over the summer, that's one thing I definitely learned. They're very, very busy. They have a very limited amount of time, and they already have so much going on that trying to add something new in there would be too much, which is why we're trying to, as a baseline, approach them by saying, if you want our service, look, we can already have your menu ready to go for you, because oftentimes these menus are available online. And so there are ways to use APIs and different resources to upload those menus immediately on our app. And then of course, have them verify it, make sure the information is accurate. And then of course, we could also provide a service like some of our competitors do, where if they want support in their updating of menus and their profile and things like that, then they can come to us. And then that's an additional feature we can offer, where we have somebody dedicated to customer support for restaurants that will do that for them, so they don't really have to worry about it. And in terms of integration, we are trying to integrate with their POS system, and we've looked into systems like Omnivore, which would allow us to merge with whatever they already have, so they don't have to build or purchase a whole new POS system. They can just download us basically, and we're good to go because we've already integrated what they already have. So it's really trying to be as low change as possible.
And how close is the technology to being able to be put in place versus how much of this is just concept board at this point?
So right now we're already in app development, and we're aiming to have our prototype done by the end of December. And then we'll start beta testing from January until mid or end of spring. And then hopefully we can have a full launch by the start of summer when everybody starts to go out and really make the full use of restaurants. And also I will add to that, sorry, in terms of research, we've interviewed over in total 125 people mixed with all the different user categories, and then also surveyed over 600 different people. So we definitely have a lot of research done as well beyond the actual product.
Excellent presentation, JB. I love what you laid out here, particularly the visuals of the prototype. That was awesome. My question is, I think, the pre-ordering is obviously your competitive advantage. How easy is it for your competitors to replicate that into the apps that they already have?
I think in terms of directly replicating our features, they could. I'm not going to sit here and be like, oh, no, they can't because it's not patentable. They certainly could. But I think what it comes down to is our ability to have a good strategy to scale quickly when we come out. And then on top of that, also the user engagement. One thing I really found with these other platforms is that, one, their demographic, especially OpenTable, is older. It's not younger. And then on top of that, it's very cold, not very interactive. And that's the whole point of group swiping. And also again, the algorithm and the pre-ordering is it's a lot more personal and it's a lot more fun. And that's really the angle we're trying to take, which will hopefully, again, attract users in our target market to us. And it's not really the brand image that these other competitors have. And on top of that, we also have other features that we're trying to roll out that will hopefully distinguish us from the competitors that we have. So always innovating and trying to think outside the box. So I know my time is up, so I'll stop talking.
Fantastic, JB. Thank you so much for joining us today. Great work.
Thank you so much. Stop
Great.
sharing.
Judges,
Thank
we're
you.
going to give you the 5 minutes to fill in your scorecards, and then we'll pull up the next picture. Great. Welcome, Vishesh. As a reminder, you have 5 minutes to pitch with 10 minutes of Q&A. I'm going to let you pull up your screen now, and I'll let you know when you're good to go.
Sure. Thanks.
Okay, Vishesh, you are welcome to take it away. We can't see your screen just yet, but you are welcome to screen share. And as soon as you start pitching, we'll start timing. There we go.
Can you see it now?
Yes, it looks great.
So hi, my name is Vishesh.
Hi, my name is Ami.
And our platform is Learning. We want to bring you a world of ideas right at your fingertips. So we started with our customer discovery journey, where we found out after interviewing 200 people that most of them are interested either in short video type content or live interactions.
Yes, what you see on your screen is absolutely true. The attention span of humans have been declining since 2000s. Earlier, goldfish was considered to have the least attention span, but now it's humans. Most and all forms of educational content on internet is in the form of long dreaded boring online videos. They are dull and boring. Less than 3%, yes, less than 3%, the rate of completion of Udemy courses is less than 3%. An average American adult spends almost 3.5 hours daily scrolling through social media, whereas the Gen Z, like you and me, shockingly spend 5.5 hours daily on the social media. So the overall time spent on watching the videos is increasing, while the attention span is decreasing. Are they really wasting the time? Yes. Most of the content on social media is repetitive, and sometimes it's untrue. So people start comparing themselves and degrade their mental health.
A solution is a product that combines the social media user experience of scrolling along with the educational value that online courses bring. Imagine having an Udemy courses like a TikTok video. That's what we want to be. We want to be the TikTok of learning. So Learning is a micro learning based platform that is accessible, affordable, and fun, free from negativity, doom scrolling, and advertising. We have a wide domain of categories for you to choose from. So no matter if you want to study astronomy or biology, you can just choose the categories of your interest and you can just scroll through and find the content of your interest. So what are the benefits that we provide? One of the biggest benefits that we provide to the user is that we help him save time and effort. So instead of spending hours on watching an online course, you can just scroll through the app like Instagram and learn new things. Now, this is what we want to. If you spend 10 minutes on the app every day, it's spending 5 hours every month and then 60 hours every year. So imagine spending 10 minutes on the app and getting outcomes worth watching multiple online courses. At the same time, the key benefit we want to provide is to our content creators. They'll get an extra source of income along with they'll get to build a network of their own. They can also have additional benefits such as having live streaming with their target audience and also paid one-to-one call, helping them create one extra source of income. Our team includes me, that's the founder. I'm a CS sophomore and I'll be graduating in year 24. We also have our development partners along with a senior management guy guiding us throughout the process of this. Amy is our content head and she'll be helping us with what kind of content should we bring from the platform. The EdTech is booming, especially after the COVID. It is expected to reach $404 billion by 2025. We started with a mere 15 to 20 users, and now we have more than 2,000 users without spending a single dollar on marketing. We have done this by organizing weekly contests. We have organized 3 contests, Teach in a Minute, Building Love, and Business Pitch, for which we got 500 registrations on an average. This is what Learn is projected to be. We want to use short videos as a tool of information. These are the competitive advantages we have. We provide extra monetary advantages to our creators. At the same time, the platform is free from filter bubble and advertising. Our business model. So we have tried to build a diversified business model. It includes having a one-to-one interaction with the creator and also an online subscription model. So most of the content on the platform is free. You can choose short videos of your interest. But for other things, for example, if you want to have some exclusive documentaries, and the big thing is that we want to bring online courses in the form of short tappable videos or best book life lessons in short. So for that, we'll be charging a mere fees of $5 a month. I put in my own $7,000 in building the app for both iOS and Android. And we also acquired 2,000 users on our Android app. Our iOS app will be launching next month. We're looking for a seed funding of $10,000 through which we'll be able to acquire some fresh content. Through this fresh content, if we're able to get 10,000 users, we'll be ready for Series A and we can take the startup further. We were participants and winners of CSVP and we were also semi-finalists previous year in the Innovation Challenge. I look forward to answering any of the questions that judges have for us. Thank you.
Great, thank you, Vishash and team. We're going to jump right into our 10-minute Q&A with our judges.
Great, thanks, Vishash. That was a great presentation. Maybe just quickly, can you talk a little bit about how your content generation and your content moderation and how you're going to think about those aspects?
Yeah, so that's one of the most important aspects for us. So we are having the content only on invite-only basis. The one plan that I have in mind is that we invite the top 1% creators of LinkedIn, YouTube, and Instagram and ask them to get to the platform. And it would be a non-bonded platform. For example, they can keep on continuing to upload videos on their respective platforms and do learning as an extra source of income. So it will be only on the basis of an invite only, and then we'll be judging the content and then posting it to the user. Initially, we'll be giving out the content on our own, but in the latter, we'll be having to invest money on AI so that best content can be delivered to the right people. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Great presentation. Can you speak a little bit about how you were able to gain your first, I think you said 2,000 users, is that right?
Yeah. So I was very key on not spending $1 on marketing because it was my own money that I invested into it. So how we organized it is entirely through referrals. For example, we organized a contest called Teach in a Minute, where you had to teach something in a minute. And it's an Instagram story that I posted, then my friends reposted it, and then their friends reposted it. So that's how we actually gained traction and have been moving forward. But in the long run, this is not the model that should follow for long. So we'll be spending money on marketing, but initially I was thinking that I've seen word of mouth working for me right now. And I think that these short videos like TikToks and these get popular very easily. And we have also made it very easy on the app to just share with your friend and a link. So that's how we majorly gain traction. Yeah.
Good work. Question on, I know a lot of online learning programs, the attractiveness for them is certifications that the individual would get at the end of their program. Have you looked into anything like that, that folks would be able to go through the short learning videos and come out at the end with a certification of some sort?
Perfect. That's one of the things that we've been focusing on a lot. So we have thought of having some special karma points in the apps. For example, if you're learning something, you can invite your friends and you can track how much you are learning and how much they are. You can see how much points they have earned. So in a way, we can make it, for example, people share the Spotify playlist. So why can't you share your learning playlist and see on what you have been researching and scrolling through? So I don't want to make it certification like Udemy and Audacity and other, because everyone else is doing that. We can have something cool like karma points, or you can see on what all your friends are doing and what you are learning. So I think it can be a very collaborative and a social learning experience for all. Yeah.
With regards to like customers to date, or I guess users to date, have you been tracking metrics with regards to, you know, are the customers returning? Is the same customers, or is it new users that are constantly using the app?
So one of the things that I've seen, which was very interesting, is that your users are not a daily active user. So daily active users are less than 10% for any platform. And for some platforms, less than 3%. But we have been getting about 18% of daily active users. I see that people who spend the most time also share the most videos. Videos that catch attention very soon are the ones that are shared most. So that's what we spent a lot of money on, is having detailed analytics on when the user actually clicks on the like button, or when he shares the video, when he shares the link of it. So that's something we were very careful of, and we built a detailed analytics platform just for that, on seeing on when is the video shared, when is it liked, and yeah, all of that.
What's it going to truly take to scale this? You mentioned you're looking for the $10,000. I get it, but how do you become that main player in the learning realm?
I think being a technology platform, it's obviously tough for us to scale, but it's not as tough as physical products. The best thing that would work for us for it to become a big thing is referrals. If we can have some very strong referrals where you use it along with 4 of your other friends, that's when the platform becomes very powerful and it just spreads on. This was the same model what TikTok built on. We're not in any way competing with any of Instagram or TikTok, because we'll definitely be killed. Ours is a learning-based platform. So we're taking a very different approach to this. If we can bring you the content in the same format as Instagram, but in a more educational and informative way. So that's, I think word of mouth and referrals is what we're going to focus on. For example, if you refer a friend, you get some extra karma points, or you get some extra dollars, that something like that. So that's what we'll be planning out and building a very strong referral strategy for it. But as of now, it hasn't been very tough to market the platform because people are talking about it. But in the long run, there will be a lot more things that will go into the referral strategy. Yeah.
Thank you.
So do you view yourself as a technology platform or as a content, somebody that's delivering content and developing content?
I think we're a content platform first, which is distributing content through technology, because it's easy to say a tech company, but I think the only thing that can make us win or lose is the content. So our entire focus would be on providing the highest and best quality of content to the user. Because if we have top content, then we won't have to figure out so many referral strategies, because something that's good sells itself. So if you find something meaningful, you'll obviously send it to your friends, and you'll obviously want it to reach more people. So that's the priority number 1, is having the best content on board, and then helping it scale through technology.
Okay. Continuing on that topic, have you done market research as to what content is the most popular and which is gaining more traction?
Yeah. So we while doing customer discovery journey, we were also asking many types of questions. So it actually depends a lot on what age group do you like. So for example, millennials like us, for example, I might be interested in CS content, but many other people might not. And that's one key thing that our platform does. So when you click on the app, it asks you on what categories are you interested in, and it only connects you to those categories of interest and similar to that. So for example, me being a content creator who's uploading videos related to CS can directly target the person who has actually chosen that category, making me easier to reach my target audience and build a strong follower network. So we have taken about 30 categories initially, which wholesomely serves a big target audience, but still The major content that we'll include is books in short, some online courses, we can provide them in tappable format, documentaries, and and how to speak well. For example, pitching is also one of the things that we can maybe have on the platform, on how to sell yourself well. I think this is one of the biggest skill that a founder should have. So things like that, which are actually useful.
So on that, are you going to be planning on using any learning technology in the sense that I know there's a lot of apps that will ask you your interest in the beginning, they'll share it to you. For instance, music is a popular one where they'll ask your general interest, but then they'll try to expand for you. Is that something you're looking at, or are you going to be concentration focused where if I tell you this is my interest, you're going to feed me that content?
I think that if I only feed you the content that you ask for, then that's a filter bubble that most of the platforms right now are facing a lot of problems with. So we'll try to give a wholesome, diversified content. For example, you are not only restricted to the categories of your interest, but you can also see what your friends are watching. That's a true social experience when it comes to learning. So for example, if I have to talk about how equity split works, so that's something that everyone should know, or basic of the stock market. So if we have a filter bubble that only restrict to the categories of my interest, then the platform might just become like another Reddit or Instagram. So that's one thing that we don't want to get into, is having a more diversified type of content so that everything you read or scroll through helps you in life.
And as far as your business plan itself, so I think you said that you were not going to do advertisement and that your most content would be free.
Kyle, honestly, my initial plan was to do advertisement, but after me researching a lot, I saw that first of all, nobody likes advertisements. Secondly, if I have advertisements on the platform, it would definitely influence the decision of my user. For example, another app can advertise about themselves. And I think they're very distractive, especially when you're learning something. For example, if I'm focusing on something and I'm learning and I'm scrolling and an ad pops up, so it would definitely take my attention span and it would probably tell me to quit the app. So we'll be choosing the same model as Zoom. We'll be on a freemium model where most of the content is free, but for some exclusive stuff, like online courses in tappable form or some online short documentaries, the one content that you actually charge a lot for, we'll be charging $5 a month or less, not more than that, depending on how we scale as a platform.
Okay, fantastic. Thank you, Vishesh. Great work,
Thank
team.
You. Thank you, guys. Bye.
Thanks for being here. Judges, we have a couple of minutes for you to fill in your scorecards. I'm going to play some music and then we'll pull up our next team. Okay, Adrian, welcome. You are welcome to pull up your screen. And once you do that, we'll do a quick check and then you can take it away.
Okay. Can you see my screen?
That looks great. You're welcome to take it away. As a reminder, you have 5 minutes to pitch with 10 minutes of Q&A. If I come back on the screen, that means to wrap it up, but we will see you in a couple minutes. Good luck.
Okay.
You are also welcome to get started. As soon as you start your pitch, we will start timing.
Okay. I'll start then. Hi, I hope you had a wonderful day. My name is Adrian Chase, and I'll be presenting Interactiva Studios. So who are we? We're a software development company that specializes in the development of virtual experiences to business clients. We specialize in interactive media, virtual reality, and augmented reality. What does this all mean? What is interactive media? Interactive media is the use of computer graphics to create these highly immersive and interactive virtual experiences. All of these are projects we've previously created. This top one on the right is a highlight, it's a virtual tour of UMass. More on all of this later. So who's our target audience? We create these virtual experiences for customers from corporate backgrounds. So this means a business to business thing. We're currently working on expanding R&D efforts to increase our target customer. So what's the problem among all this? So these technologies are emerging, so it means it's hard to understand the capabilities. I'm sure it's a little bit hard to grasp what this all does and what this means. There's a lot of untapped business to this. There's a lot of sectors who haven't adopted these technologies. It's expensive to develop. It requires dedicated development teams to actually do this for months and years, sometimes for very intricate virtual experiences. So yeah, we are addressing these. Each one of these was a specific strategy. We're looking to grow our target customer via via R&D efforts to create platforms for areas that never used these technologies before. So arts, education, tourism. We're lowering our costs by growing our offshore development team based off of Argentina. We're increasing our sales via innovative marketing strategies. More on this later. And we're also streamlining our development process, which means that each subsequent project takes less time to do. So what's our validation? So far, we've developed 3 clients for three projects for institutional clients. We brought in a total of 28,000 in revenue. Our first project was the PR Art Fair. We got very impressive numbers. Clients were very happy, but more importantly, it took 2 months to develop. We created this entire fair from an in-person thing to a virtual thing, completely interactive. Same thing with the second project, which is a clean water celebration. Very impressive numbers. We made this in-person event into a virtual experience. It took 3 months to develop. And more importantly, the most impressive one right now is our last project, which is a digital media lab, also showcase of an in-person thing that was passed into a virtual experience. It took 3 weeks to develop from scratch to publishing. So that's all thanks to our streamlining efforts. Also very happy clients. So what's the future? Where are we going right now? So right now we're focusing on 3 projects. Right now our first one is Toyota Showroom. We're working with one of the biggest marketing agencies in Mexico to create this showroom to showcase Toyota's models, working with Conestoga College. All these are still in negotiation. I can't give too many details because of that. But we're also working with them to make virtual reality training simulations. And we're also working with one of our previous clients for a recurring project, the clean water celebration for the 2022. Here are the estimated revenues for these. We're also researching and developing projects. All these are real screenshots for a project we're working on right now, virtual tours, simulations, and non-fungible tokens. If you don't know what that is, Q&A. We're also working on marketing for with Dr. Hussein Hashemi, who's instructor for Marketing 455, internet marketing. There's an opportunity for students to gain real world experience because we're going to be a case study for them. We're going to start on November 15th. There's also an opportunity for us to grow our marketing strategy beyond references. So who's the team? Right now, our leadership team includes myself. I have 8 years of experience creating these sort of applications. Herman has 10 years of experience creating digital media, and Juliana has 5 years of experience doing software engineering. So we all sort of know what we're doing. The most important part, though, is the feasibility and profitability. So how feasible and profitable is this? So right now, it takes about 2 to 4 developers per project and 1 to 3 months to create each one of these projects. We get more efficient per project, and it varies. Right now, our costs are about $6,600 per year per developer. However, this isn't entirely accurate because we are reinvesting in the business instead of paying salaries. However, by Q4 of 2023, which is what we're forecasting for, is we're looking at about 45,000 per project, 4 to 5 projects per quarter, which would mean we'd have a 12-person development team to do this, about 13,500 per developer per year. And that would bring us at a profit about 594 after revenue, expenses, and salaries. So what are we looking to raise right now? We're looking at least 50,000 by Q4 of 2022. This is for marketing, investing in marketing and R&D, but more importantly, we need capital to be able to create bigger projects because a lot of these projects require us to put in a lot of effort, and we don't get paid until the end. So we kind of need working capital to be able to adopt larger projects. So yeah, that's all I have for you for now. Thank you very much for listening, and I'll leave you with our mission statement.
Fantastic. Thank you, Adrian. We're going to go right into our 10-minute Q&A.
Adrian, did you breathe during that entire presentation? I think it was awesome, but man, did you cover a lot of ground. You really did. Good job. Thank you. I think the judges agree with me there. They want you to breathe. Hey, Adrian, can you go back to that slide? You blew past a slide with the projects you worked on, and one was the library at UMass.
Yeah,
and
sure.
You said something about we'll see that later, and we never saw. I'm assuming those are some of the projects you've worked on. Keep going back. It was a 4-quadrant picture.
This one maybe.
There you go. Okay, so explain, if you don't mind, some of those. If these are some of your projects, I wanted you to go back to this because I think this will help me understand a little bit more about what you're doing. So I'm assuming you mentioned top right. So this is top right is the UMass campus. Did you set up? You did a virtual tour outside, inside, where people can guide themselves. Is that what that is?
Correct.
And what are the others?
Correct. So this one is a virtual tour of UMass. this one is the Peoria Art Fair. So there's just a lot of tents with art pieces, and people can walk around and look at the different art pieces and buy art online. The bottom right is an International Space Station simulation. This is a showcase and R&D project to showcase how we can use this for training and simulations. And the bottom left, I did include this for detail, sort of how we create the little art of what we're doing here.
No, it's very cool stuff. I want to ask, what's
Mhm.
truly the focus and of where's the focus going to be? I mean, it sounds like you have the technology, you have the brains, you have the right team. Where are you going to focus? Because it seems like these projects can generate some serious revenue. But what is truly the focus, and what's the customer you really want to go after?
That's a good question. So right now we're kind of discovering that, to be completely honest. So that's why we're kind of focusing on R&D efforts. I know currently, that one of the easiest ones is to focus on training and simulations. But we're trying to expand, for example, on areas of tourism, which I think virtual tours are one of the areas we want to focus on. Virtual events like the Clean Water Celebration, which is our recurring customer here. Basically, right now we're tailoring as a virtual experience developer for hire. So if you need a virtual experience, we're the people to do it.
Got it.
I don't know if that answered your question.
It does. It does. I just didn't know if there was a specific area that you're focused, whether it's public education, whether it's tourism, whether it's, or where your focus is. And maybe you'll find that, as to down the road when it becomes more popular in certain areas.
Absolutely. Yes. Yes. For now, we're trying to expand and learn as well. So we don't have a specific focus.
Thank you.
How do you see yourselves competing long term? Because I know I've seen this come up in the real estate space, especially during COVID with not being able to view houses. A lot of folks went virtual to do the virtual tours, which is not as digitized as what you're showing, more of taking the camera around the house and still being able to be interactive. So how do you see yourself playing in that space and being competitive, or is that a space you're not even looking at?
Yeah, so no, that's actually an excellent question. And currently, like a lot of these solutions are actually not very interactive or even immersive. So right now we have like street view sort of technologies that sort of let you click and look at images and stuff. And what we haven't seen a lot of is like full virtual worlds. You can completely walk around, look at virtual reality, or from your phone or from your computer or from anywhere. Because if you look at, for example, one of the real estate platforms that lets you do this is Matterport, and they sort of have their 360-degree image thing where you can sort of look around, but it's very constrained. And what we're looking at here is not only can you freely walk around, but you can interact. Maybe if you want to like try out the shower in the bathroom, or in our virtual showroom, we can go inside the car, honk the horn, turn on the speakers, that sort of thing. Completely interactive, and you see all the feedback in real time. And we haven't really seen much of that currently.
Is your market going to be higher end, larger companies that I think the price point on some of these things was not crazy expensive, but certainly gonna get out a lot of the lower level activities. So is it a higher end focus, or is that just the initial price point while you get your platform figured out?
That's an excellent question, and I do think that we definitely are aiming towards larger clients because definitely these are currently premium solutions. But we also noticing that we can streamline to some extent. How much can we streamline? We're not entirely sure. We were pretty impressed with how short it took to do our last project, which means we could be tailoring to lower end customers in the future, but it's hard to tell at this stage.
How are you approaching your sales and marketing right now? Is that something that you're handling or somebody else on your team? And what's your marketing plan going forward?
That's an excellent question. So right now, myself, I'm the marketer. So I just do the reach outs, the emails, the calls, the references. I would wish I could give you my business card right now. But yeah, basically it's myself. I do think we should definitely get a team to work on this, but that's sort of off priority right now. I think right now we're looking to grow our references and our so far everyone's been happy. So I think that, everyone has referenced each other so far. So I think that if we continue this way, so far, we should be able to at least sustain ourselves to the point where we can, grow that marketing part, I guess.
So question about the funding. You
Mhm.
mentioned that, and it's two parts. I mean, you mentioned that you're looking for 50,000 to get into like Q4 2022. That's a year from now.
Yes.
So what are you looking for presently? And part two of that is, based on the size and scope of some of these projects, I'm assuming you can get some big deposits down. I'm assuming these companies don't expect you to do a $120,000 project and then they'll pay you 60 days after it's done. I'm assuming that you can negotiate some of that. I mean, because that's a big number to lay out on your end. Have you
That's a
had
good
discussions about that? And what's the deal with just the 50 within a year?
That's a good question. That's a really good question. And for example, we have been able to negotiate sort of like a three-way thing, like a part at the beginning, a part at the end, and that sort of thing. But one of the problems we've had is, like, for example, one of like the big projects, for example, Conestoga College, they're looking for people, with a lot of experience before. And it's like, have you had any off-the-shelf solutions for simulations and whatnot? We don't have that level of experience. We do have clients, they're happy, but at the end of the day, we're not quite there yet for them. So it would be it would be almost amazing to be able to pledge, hey, we'll do this, and you don't have to, risk assent until we've developed the entire thing and you're happy with it. So with like these bigger clients, it's a little bit harder to leverage sort of that upfront piece, just because of us being new, if that makes sense.
Got it. Thank you.
Adrian, this looks really cool. And I know it's an expanding technology and market, but I guess in terms of, so the market definitely was big during COVID, kind of, I'd say boom during COVID. I guess, and so some people were just interested in that to give their customers a virtual setting. Is there any risk of that market going down after COVID? And I guess if I'm a new company, you're trying to sell this service to me, like what is the pitch in terms of like, what is it going to give me as a company to have this virtual environment of, let's say, I think you had like a toy, like a company manufacturer in there. Just thinking what the sales pitch is.
Right. That's also an excellent question. And we know, of course, our starting point as a business was, COVID. So that means, we had a good opportunity there to start, but now that people are kind of like, don't want to know anything about like computer stuff, no one wants to be on Zoom, everyone wants to go out and do actual things. That is a risk, and we've thought about it, but at the same time, I think that there's a lot of potential, because at the end of the day, you can't attend everything in person. This won't be a replacement for, attending like a virtual event on campus, because you're going to actually attend that in person. But there are stuff that's going around the country, where a lot of people can't attend in regards to like the virtual events. Like Toyota definitely sees the value in like a virtual showroom, just because not everyone can go to a showroom and see a car in person. So I think that despite the risk after COVID, there's definitely a lot of potential and demand for these technologies.
So super quick, I know you mentioned a few times that you need to, as a group, focus on research and development.
Mm-hmm.
What are going to be the aspects that you will focus on if you were to get money to focus to do the research?
That's an excellent question, and I don't know if I have time for that. Real quick, like one of the things we've worked on is an algorithm that lets us scale up and scale down, because these applications are hard to run on all sorts of devices. So this thing sort of adapts the technology to the device. This thing we're still developing on. It's working, but still there. So that's an example. Thank you very much. I ran out of time, but thank you much for the questions, and yeah, good luck with the rest of the presentations.
Thank you, Adrian. Great job on your pitch this afternoon. And you're all set.
Thank you. Take care now.
Thank you. Judges, you have your scorecards. We'll give you a couple minutes and pull up some music while you do that. Okay, our next team, you are welcome to pull up your deck and start screen sharing. We'll let you know when you're good to start pitching.
Okay, thank you.
Fantastic. I have all of the scorecards from the last pitcher. So as a reminder, you have 5 minutes to pitch with 10 minutes of Q&A. Make sure you're watching that timer. We will let you know when your time is up, and we're going to jump right into that Q&A. Best of luck to you and your team. You feel free to take it away.
All right. Hello, everybody. My name is David Egidio, and I'm one of the co-founders at Cryptic Med.
Cryptic Med is a software telecommunication company whose goal is to reimagine the 911 system to make it a more streamlined experience for everyone, from patient to provider. So luckily for most of us, we'll probably never have to dial 911 in our lifetimes. But for nursing homes, that's not the case. On average, nursing homes dial 911 upwards of 5 times a day, relating to their patients' emergent and non-emergent needs. These high influx of 911 calls made by nursing staff to call centers is where we reach our first problem. There we go. Where we reach our first problem, which is understaffed nursing homes and 911 call centers. These call centers are staffed with call takers and dispatchers. At any one time during the day, they must answer calls relating to 50,000 people that might live in their jurisdiction. But these centers have 4 or less seats to actually answer these calls. So if 5 calls come in at one time, then your call can either be put on hold, your call can get transferred to a call center that's further away from your emergency, or they might hang up on their current caller in order to answer yours. Understaffing also affects nursing homes as well, as most nursing homes are working at unfavorable staff to patient ratios. So this gets into our second problem, which is a lack of high quality data in 911. When emergency strikes at a nursing home, nursing staff are required to read off lengthy medical records that relate to their patient specific medical and handling needs. And these records can be upwards of 60 pages long. And when this information is gone through the chain of command from nursing staff to call takers to dispatchers, EMTs, and paramedics, important and pertinent information can get lost in translation. And our actual clinicians that will be handling medical care don't end up with the information they need to make accurate decisions. So that brings our solution to Cryptic Med. Cryptic Med allows skilled nursing facilities to create customizable, unique medical profiles for their patients. And these profiles update and align parallel with their current charting software. You update something in your charting software, Cryptic Med updates as well. The difference is that Cryptic Med pulls the most pertinent information. When an emergency arises, all staff have to do is select the patient that the emergency is for and select the chief complaint that most socially or most closely relates to their issue at hand. Cryptic Med will then generate questions relating to that chief complaint. And these are dynamic questions, meaning your answer to the first question is going to impact what your second question is going to be asked. And why does it happen? Our software is live triaging these responses, and we're assigning urgency to them. Most urgent calls will go to the 911 center, while less urgent calls can be handled by the local private ambulance company. And this allows resources to be saved. Another great point is that there's 0 voice calling if none is needed, which frees up call takers to answer other calls coming in from other callers in their city or jurisdiction. And finally, it allows EMS to have access to high quality medical data so they can make the most accurate decisions and for their patients. So currently we have no direct competitors. We have a lot of indirect competitors when it comes to the aspects of medical profiles. A lot of other companies have medical profiles in 911, but they're associated with specific numbers. Let's face it, when we call 911, we're usually not calling for ourselves. We're calling for someone else. At Cryptic Med, we define our target market as nursing homes with over 15,500 facilities, 911 call centers, also called PSAPs, with over 5,500 primary and secondary PSAPs located across the United States, and over 1.4 million nursing facility patients that require medical care every single day. At Cryptic Med, we are SaaS software, meaning that we are subscription as a service. We sell directly to skilled nursing facilities, directly to PSAPs, and directly to private ambulance companies for business-to-business transactions. Now, of course, I'm not the only person on this team. At Cryptic Med, we built a really great team of people that are passionate about the project. We have 3 software engineers with a combined 30+ years of experience, a lot of that being in security-related tasks. We also have a fantastic board advisor, Sean, who has 19 years of medical care experiencing, not only focusing on being an EMT and a paramedic and a dispatcher, but he also is an instructor for the future paramedics of the United States and actually even writes the curriculum for paramedics as well. And that is what Cryptic Med. Thank you for listening, and questions are much appreciated.
Great work. We're going to go straight into our 10-minute Q&A.
Thanks, David. That was great. I do have just a question on what you're trying to accomplish. So you would need to get the 911 call centers to adopt this technology, as well as the ambulance companies to adopt this technology, as well as nursing homes to adopt the technology? Do you need, I mean, if it's B2B, you're gonna need a lot of players to all go in on this?
Yeah, so basically how we structured it is leveraging nursing homes first, and then leveraging public safety answering points, which are the 911 centers. And then there's also private ambulance companies that handle non-emergent calls. And there's also another thing called mobile care units, which are located in fire departments, which also hand non-emergent calls. So yes, it's about leveraging all aspects of the 911 system in order to have a fluent software. Yeah.
Okay. And just for my benefit, for these, for 911 centers or, the fire departments or things like that, how often do they adopt new technology, and how do you think it's going to be to get them to onboard?
So like we said, one of our board advisors, Sean, he says, that a lot of departments update their technology quite frequently, especially since as we've been getting more advanced in the future, there's better security, encryption. So I feel like a lot of people I feel like these departments update quite frequently, and I don't really see a huge problem in that aspect of using older technology.
So kind of continuing on Kyle's conversation and questioning. So would your starting point be the 911 operator and starting from there to get them to buy in before you're then going to the other players in the space?
So we would probably see it as leveraging nursing homes first. So basically we would think about it as in a certain jurisdiction, we would leverage nursing homes in that area. And then once we have nursing homes that are like, hey, this is awesome, we would love to try this out. Then we would be leveraging the call center located in that jurisdiction, saying like, hey, we have nursing homes here that are willing to try the software out, are willing to pilot the software. Are you willing to as well? So yeah, that's how we planned on leveraging it. And we do have a soft talk of a pilot program actually in New Mexico right now.
So you talk about sales model. You say you're going to sell to nursing homes, to 911 centers, and private ambulance companies. How does the revenue model work? And suppose one of the follow up to both of their questions are, suppose one of those pieces doesn't buy into it, then what? It's a lot of moving parts here for one community. Are you hoping that'll be a domino effect? Because it sounds like that's what you're looking for, and we're not sure which direction the dominoes are going to fall.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, the software can be set up in many different ways. The main reason why I think 911 centers will like to adapt it is, nursing staff don't really know how to triage calls. So the second they dialed 911, once that call center answers, it's their call. And, Eric and I were reading, some statistics in Millville, Oregon, where, non-emergent 911 calls coming in from nursing homes was costing the city over $750,000 a year in not wasted, but, aid that could have been used somewhere else. So I think it's something that PSAPs would definitely be interested in, and private ambulance companies as well, because, it costs money to transfer these patients from, the nursing home to the hospital. So they'll be making money as well. And it saves time for nursing home staff as, they don't have to sift through these 60+ page medical records of their, 80-year-old plus patients. It can be done quite seamlessly.
So thinking about the seed money from the pitch competition today, what would that allow the organization to do? What steps would you take if you were to receive some funds?
Yeah, so our first step is really just helping with our monthly burn rate. So HIPAA compliant was a huge, it is a very big paywall that you have to get through, just saying to the HIPAA standards that your software is safe. So a lot of that money would go through just finishing up our HIPAA transactions, and also, storing this information with on servers is also quite expensive. And even the the micro of transferring information from different places during emergency, especially if this information is like if it's very dense amount of information, is very costly. So yeah, that's where we would really, and also like marketing and sales, because as of right now, Eric and I have been doing that solely through just reaching out to people by email, call, and LinkedIn.
Can you talk to us a little bit more about this New Mexico pilot opportunity that you have? How has that come about? How have the conversations been going?
So it's like I said, it was a soft talk. So like one of our, like I said, the board advisor, Sean, he lives in New Mexico. He has a lot of, I guess, connections out there, and he's talked to people and they seemed interested in the idea. So it's really just a buzz about actually sitting down with the, administrators of, public safety answering points over there and coming to a conclusion.
Great presentation. So ideally, thinking about the next 6 months, the next year, how many communities would you like to have using your software?
So, I mean, first, like you said, we'd like to pilot it in really just our biggest concern is making sure our software can properly triage calls to a better ability of, let's say, a nursing staff. So once we pilot it and we know for sure, I mean, we can pilot, we can test as much as we want with ourselves, but it's different when you're actually testing with real patients. But once we believe that, the algorithms of triaging calls work, I mean, we'd definitely like to expand at different nursing homes in a specific jurisdiction. So if we have one nursing home and a PSAP on board in a jurisdiction, we definitely like to focus on all those nursing homes in that jurisdiction first, and then move on to different places.
Do you think your software is going to take on any liability with regards to if your software is triaging the patients? Is there going to be any liability related to that or delays in getting them to the appropriate first responders, or how would that work?
Like I said, I don't see a problem with that. I mean, right now calls are triaged by human beings, and I'm an EMT myself, and I've ran into many mistakes where the call taker has triaged it wrong, sending like basic life support ambulances to, advanced life support calls. I mean, it's something where I don't think it's 100% like foolproof, like you can triage calls perfectly, but I don't see a liability in it. And like I said earlier with, nursing staff, once they dial 911, they're already going to be using up 911 services within that town. So I would say that our software would do a more efficient job at triaging these calls and bringing them to the correct place to, it's not only mainly just to like save money and save resources in the town, so that if someone else's calls 911, they'll be able to allocate that resources to them and it's not wasted somewhere else. So I don't see a problem with it.
Thanks, David. Just to clarify, so it sounds like if you got the seed money, you theoretically would be at the end of potentially kind of going through the product build out and getting through the HIPAA so you could get to that prototyping stage, or would there still be additional development required after that?
So we plan to have a pilot program in late December of this year. Like I said, we came up with the idea, Eric and I, in early January of 2021. We got incorporated through Pepperdine Law in February for a very reduced price. And then we actually built our first prototype in March of 2021. And through customer discovery, we kind of pivoted and tweaked what we wanted to do with our software. And then we kind of brought in all that information. So yeah, we plan on piloting it in December 2021, foolproof, or, we don't really, yeah, we plan on piloting it in 2021. So like not like a prototype, but actual like real customers and everything.
Fantastic. Thank you, David and Eric, for being here today. We very much appreciate both of you. Great work today.
Thank you.
Great. Judges, you're going to have a couple of minutes to fill in your scorecard. I'm going to pull up the deck for our next pitch. We have 2 more pitches this afternoon out of our 12 for the day. So 2 more pitches coming up soon, and then we'll conclude and do final judging. Okay, Aaron, I'm going to turn it over to you to pull up your deck. I'll let you know when it's time to go.
Sounds good. Judges, I hope everybody's still awake. Thank you
We're
all so
good.
much.
We're eating Halloween candy. We're good.
Good, good. All right, good. You're all jacked up on Halloween candy.
We're good.
All right, let me know when y'all are ready.
I think we're ready to go.
Cool. Sounds good. Okay.
1 second. We just have one more scorecard we have to get in, and then I will turn it over to you, Aaron.
False alarm. False alarm.
You're ready to go, though. I love it. Okay, we are all set. Aaron, it's all yours. As soon as you start pitching, we will start timing. As a reminder, you have 5 minutes to pitch, 10 minutes for Q&A. Please feel free to take it away.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. Hello, judges, Gregory, Carly, audience members. Thank you all so much. My name is Aaron Cooper. I'm a data analyst by day, and by nights and weekends, I own a small studio called Semi-Myth Entertainment LLC, and we would like to reveal to you into the world about the untold stories of India and South Asia through our video game, Lion's Age. First, I'll give you a brief rundown of the strategy game market for video games. Then I will talk briefly about how we will make a Lion's Age a success within that space. And then finally, I want to talk about the feasibility and what success looks like for our product now and in the future. The strategy video game market is a multi-billion-dollar global industry and is now almost 40 years old. It is one that is generally characterized as being slower paced and thought-provoking for those people who actually play those games, as people play a role in running a kingdom or a company and balance resources to try and maintain things without things collapsing in on themselves, not unlike what we do here in the business world. For the subsection of the games that are set in the medieval time period, they are focused on European, Chinese, or Japanese history, and why not? Who doesn't want to play a knight in shining armor or a samurai? However, this has been a pattern now since the beginning, and as wealth inequality begins to shrink in the global south, there are millions of people who want to see themselves in their games, and millions of eager gamers in the global north who are tired of playing the same experience over and over again. A Lion's Age is a game designed specifically to fill that niche for South Asian gamers and interested gamers globally, highlighting the lives of hundreds of interesting historical figures from the medieval Indian, Pakistani, and South Asian countries in general. We'll bring to market the untold stories that enrich to the players and reflect the great diversity of the time. This includes warrior queens, the great contributions of Africans to India and South Asia in general, and the great and powerful Mughal Empire. We'll be making an effort to highlight the ingenuity and cooperation of the people of the time, making something that's both entertaining and educational, including background details on every single one of the characters that we involve. Making any product is a team effort. I've been working with a brilliant team of writers and artists and have been receiving counsel from industry experts as well as legal and financial experts every step of the way. And if we were to take home any part of the prize money, the money would be going directly to these brilliant folks and crafting something that we can all be proud of. Making a successful business is important to know exactly who you are marketing to. According to Quantic Foundry, a research center, the typical gamer for this genre is homogeneously male and between the ages of 25 and 35. According to AARKI, a marketing company, they put the genre as more diverse in terms of general when you include role-playing games and add that the population has at least some college education and often has a high level of income. Because of this, the audience often searches out new and enriching experiences and is willing to invest more in expensive, high-quality products. Before considering cost-effective translation, the English-speaking market for this type of game exceeds 30 million lives globally. These games have a captive audience with a conversion rate triple that of your average consumer at 1.5% versus 0.5% due to the fact that these games are difficult to make and are infrequent when they come out. To give you an example of the ceiling of the industry, Civilization and Total War are two of the grandfathers of the genre and bring in around $300 million per game released and about 6.5 million copies sold each. However, as a new competitor to the market, it is fair to compare to other new products that are entering the market and can expect a 1.1 or 2% penetration rate, or about 130,000 units sold. This is elevated if we're able to successfully partner with a established publisher, allowing for the better focus on the quality of the product and ease of access to the delivery channels. Being a global product with no physical location, the feasibility of the game is promising, as almost all of the investment would be made into labor costs, with a plentiful labor and a developer pool of talent. Bringing a product like this to completion will range about $500,000, with the goal of full funding being done in partnership with an established publisher, and the break-even point at $40 after considering publisher payback and taxes is around 76,000 units, or just over 1% market penetration. Right now, it's a critical point in the development process. As I'd mentioned, these games are difficult and labor intensive to make, and every one of the people I'm working with is passionate about bringing these stories to the public, but also have to eat and heat their homes. I'll cut it short. So thank you all so much for your time. I hope I was able to inspire all of you into knowing that this type of investment is a solid one and about South Asian history, and I look forward to all of your questions.
Great, we're going to go right into 10-minute Q&A. Thank you, Aaron.
Sure. Apologies for running a little long-winded.
You ran long. They must have noted it. She started early.
Hey, Aaron. I think this is a cool idea. I'm also a fan of Civilization, which I think is one of the games you called out. But I'm just one of the major, I'd say, kind of like hypotheses that you're running on here is that there's this appetite for the Southeast Asian kind of storyline.
South Asian.
South Asian, yes. And so I'm just wondering, is there any basis to that? Has there been done research, or is that more of just a hypothesis that you're running on right now?
It is not a total hypothesis. Obviously, there is, some speculation in terms of any product that's being made. But the Indian gaming market specifically has been blowing up over the past couple of years, and the market for the history section of anything is generally more niche than other games that are released. However, yeah, there is absolutely some appetite for this. So another recent game that has just come out, Age of Empires 4, has been including more and more South Asian content, like the Delhi Sultanate, and the other sort of big kahuna within the strategy game market is the Paradox Interactive, and they have had a lot of focus on South Asian development in general. So outside of studies that have been conducted by KPMG and the other big consulting firms in terms of general investment within South Asia in general, it is also a trend that is being spotted by other big video game developers. So this is definitely a market that deserves to be represented and utilized for this type of product.
Aaron, can you bring up that revenue model again, your numbers, please?
Sure. This one?
Yeah, let me just enlarge that.
Sure.
So our publisher returns, is that your net income there, roughly speaking, or is that for somebody else?
That would be for the publisher that would be sponsoring the remainder of the development cost. So,
okay.
I
haven't had a chance to add all that up, but your gross revenue minus all that other stuff, what are you left with? What's your net income there?
That would be, this is specifically looking at the break-even point, so that nets out to $0.
So what's the end game here? If you're looking to break even, is this just these stepping stone is this just the first go at it, and then there are updates and new games and where's the money to be made?
Yeah, so obviously the break-even point is not the end goal. It would be somewhere above that. Yeah, I had mentioned the English translation having about 30 million lives that would be covered by this. That actually covers a large portion of South Asian gamers in general. Talking to Pakistani, Indian, and Bangladeshi gamers, a lot of them who are foreign exchange students in other countries, A lot of people will, translate back to their own language for, classes that they're taking or what they're doing. The South Asian population often translates back to English. But in addition to the languages that I've discussed, making sure that it's also translated to simplified Chinese, Japanese, Urdu, Hindi, and Bengali and Tamil are big items in terms of expanding that market and making sure that people see that additional access. Go for it.
No, so Aaron, you need, we're awarding $15,000 today, and I'm sure we're not the only place you're looking for money.
Sure.
You need a lot of money. Where do you see yourself? You need boatloads of money to get this thing done. What are your other outlets for funds, and how much have you raised so far?
So this is a self-funded item at the moment in terms of all of the artwork that you've seen here today, as well as working on some revenue share basis with a couple of other partners. In terms of looking at other forms of investment, I will be looking at places like Common Capital and some other small piece loans. $500,000 is not a self-funded item. In terms of the amount of money before approaching a publisher, it'd probably be in the range of about $10,000 to $15,000 to make sure that the prototype is, polished and something that they'd be willing to pick up.
Thank you.
Sure.
Maybe just for my benefit, could you explain just the role of the publisher in this process and exactly what they're bringing to the table? I mean, in addition to obviously funding, but what you're looking for in that sort of partnership relationship?
Yeah, one of the big items that you'll notice on here is that marketing is not listed. That's probably a big glaring item. I actually used to work at a marketing company, so not including it is kind of a big item. So marketing is part of the publisher's arrangement where that funding comes from and what their part at the table is. Generally within the video game industry, publishers serve two major roles. One of them is QA, making sure that what they are funding is a quality product. So feeding them builds that are actually suitable for general market and actually marketing it out to additional people. So we could invest additional resources if we want to in terms of marketing, but that is the item that would be more on their part. If it were something where we were not to partner with a major publisher, the additional cost would probably be in the range of another $250,000 or so.
So is the business plan then basically to get enough funding to get this to the working prototype, and then that would be used to market to the various publishers that are available in the marketplace?
Absolutely. So the initial stage, so the final product of the game we're aiming currently for 2023. But in terms of that initial prototype, by somewhere, Q1 or what have you of next year, looking to have an initial prototype polished and ready for some business to business marketing to some of these larger publishers.
I know that a lot of the success of these games really hinges on the depth of the character development and also the artwork, which I certainly appreciate just from what I saw. But can you speak a little bit about your process and the research of what it's taking to bring this game to life?
Absolutely. So a couple of the people that I mentioned on my team earlier on there, I can even scroll back there. So Anirudh Kanisetti and Shiv Ramdas are both writers. Anirudh was actually a research contributor to a published book called Rebel Sultans, which was about the Deccani or Southern Indian history. He's actually publishing his own book within the coming year as well. Shiv Ramdas is another published author who has been nominated for a number of prizes. So in terms of that research, I have read a number of the books myself, but I'm relying on my South Asian partners to make sure that the characterization of those individuals is both accurate and palatable. That is, in terms of the palatability, that's more Shiv's wheelhouse. He's a narrative writer and fantastic and talented at that. So this is really coming down to partnership. Javaria Ali is a Pakistani artist, and working with my creative director, Kreth, making sure that everything agrees together and is as accurate to not only, there isn't one culture, it's dozens of cultures. Making sure that it's accurate to all those items is very, very important.
So you mentioned the importance of relying on the publisher for marketing. With our day and age, YouTube gamers are a big component of marketing when it comes to games gaining popularity. Have you and your team done any research on understanding what the gamers are actually looking for to make sure that this would be a game that would be picked up by one of the popular gamers out there for the marketing component of this?
Yeah, there's a whole community of what you'd be familiar with as Let's Plays of games, specifically for this type of genre, the big items being Europa Universalis, as well as the game that we're probably modeling ourselves after most, which is called Romance of the Three Kingdoms. Both of those have a very vibrant community in terms of Let's Play and interaction between the creator of the channel and the audience. So that is definitely something that we are keeping an eye on, and have noticed what publishers are keeping an eye on as well.
Fantastic, Aaron. Thank you so much for joining us today. Great work.
Thank you all, and I appreciate all of your stamina and your questions. So good luck with everything, and thank you so much for your time.
Thanks for being here.
Sure.
Judges, as usual, you have your 5 minutes to fill in your scorecards, a little bit more than this time because you started a little bit early. So feel free to take a little bit of a stretch break if you need to, but we will be back with our next and final pitch of the day at 5:20.